Do you have an intro song?
Yeah, for the. Oh no, actually, it's just an intro. It's not an intro song. Cool. So. Oh no, actually, it's just an intro. It's not an intro song. Oh, we must be live. We can hear ourselves. Okay, awesome. I think we're probably live. So, okay, let's go ahead and start off. So, we got Caleb here. This is at NorCal Waters. We got Kyle here at RomeMaster2 on the Instagrams, guys. You want to go ahead and follow him up. Today's topic on the Red Pill Station, we're going to talk about flat Earth. A lot of people probably don't know what that is. If you don't, we're definitely going to have Caleb here actually explain a little bit more about what flat Earth is. Caleb, if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited that somebody in the NorCal region, let alone NorCal, but Sacramento, is putting on a dope show. So kudos to you for that. And thank you for letting Flat Earth get a little bit of a platform to talk tonight. That's I think that a lot of people aren't willing to do that. So thank you.
Cool. Let me see where she went real quick.
Yeah.
Hey, you're okay. Cool. um. Okay, are we good? Okay. Cool. Headphones. Cool. So awesome, guys. Okay, so we're gonna kind of get it into flat Earth for some of you guys that don't know what flat Earth is. It's definitely not that globe right there that's spinning. It's quite opposite of that.
Right.
What would you say, Caleb? It's a disc. It's a
So what? Okay, a lot of the times gonna be as I'm not gonna just be so forthcoming with certain things. Like answers are one thing, but this is more of a journey and a process of discovery. If you are interested in this subject matter to the degree that some of us are in, right? So I'm not just gonna go ahead and give you a conclusion model right away. Yes, there are people who describe it as a pizza in space. Okay, so let's just bring our attention to the fact that 99.9% of the globe Earth proponents are going to label this, right? They're going to label this based on the old type of nomenclature. It's a disk in space, floating in space with an edge, water's falling down the side, right, into oblivion. It may be touching a turtle's back. You never know, right? Turtles all the way down. You'll hear people say that too. No. No, we're not here for that. We're skipping past that portion. Okay. So then the confusion that comes in with most of this model acceptance has to do with the fact that you're having space, deep space, taken away from you. Okay. So how are you supposed to, so what's happening is you're saying to yourself, I want to build a model of what this flat earth is. Now make it fit in the model of the heliocentric mind state that I'm in, right? Yeah, I see people share it all the time. It's like, oh, so they'll and part of the you could tell their mind is in that state of in that mode if they start saying things like, okay, is the moon flat? Are the other planets flat? Well, what they're basically trying to say to you is it a heliocentric solar system with flat disks? No, no, no one is saying that in the flat Earth. Okay. So if you're trying to go from 0 to 60 and you're thinking to yourself, I want to know what this is now, then if it sounds good enough, I'll research it or study it. This isn't the subject matter for you, right? Because what's happening here is we're getting a lot of people who are coming in to the conversation or the topic or the research or the academia or the natural science, whatever you want to call it, and they're just coming in with mockery or an elementary standpoint of it's a pizza frisbee in space. So I'm just expanding on what you're asking. I'm trying to give you like the full discord on where we're at. This is where it does get complicated. Now, what we're doing here is with the flat earth topic in general, we are now allowing ourselves to say what we know it's not. Okay, so let's not jump into what it is right now. Let's talk about what it's not. So the picture that I want to describe for you is a picture that doesn't include deep space. It doesn't include curvature or a ball. So what does your mind want to do with that? Right? Now, given the fact that you know and I know that no one has even gone close to the parameters or the extent of what we're talking about here, geologically speaking, right? It doesn't matter if we're going out across the horizon or if we're going up. Those who have supposedly gone up are in the range of like 24 people who've even been high enough to even have a say on the matter. Those who have gone further into the horizon, or the South Pole, if you want to call it that, that number is even fewer, to the extent, the depth that I think that this conversation can go. So I'm not the guy who's going to tell you exactly where this model ends up. Is it flat? I'll argument that it's flat because I'm arguing that it's not a ball. That's what I just got done saying, is I'm arguing what it's not. So exactly. So that's why we're left saying flat, because we're saying there's no curve. Then you have the other aspect, because flat Earth isn't just flat Earth. That's one leg of this. This is a bipedal thing. It's flat and it's stationary. That's the other big point. A lot of other veteran flat earthers don't even like calling themselves flat earthers because people are so hung up on the flat aspect. No one's focused on the facts that it's fixed and not moving. So I'm here to tell you that it's flat and fixed. You can fill the gaps in on if you want to add. There's other speculations on what the model may end up being now that we know that it's flat and stationary. So as the conversation goes on, maybe I'll reveal more of those models. But for right now, we're not talking about a pizza pie in space, edge jokes, cats dropping stuff off the edge and all of that. That's all. That is the part that you have been told to make fun of on purpose from your institutions of higher learning. Okay? That's where that comes from.
It's kind of the meme culture that it comes from.
Well, technically speaking, yes. The memes are a way of providing information with visuals and literature in a condensed form to convey a message. I think memes are still educational. They are anecdotal and funny, but technically speaking, a meme is a source. It could be informational if you in the right hands, right? So yeah.
Most definitely, yeah.
Cool. Oh, so anything to say on that, Kyle?
So we can make the argument, of what it's not, where, it's okay. So it's not a sphere. It's not a globe. Does that fact automatically refute the existence of space, or why does it not being a globe imply that it's not moving, or maybe it doesn't?
Right. Yeah. So, there's. Sorry, I'm reaching and putting that down, but this is where it breaks into a self-searching portion. You're now that you reject. I'm speaking for myself here. When you reject the heliocentric model, I then de facto I'm rejecting the distance of the sun. I'm rejecting the distance of the planets. Okay, I'm rejecting the distance of the stars and the depths of space. Okay, so I'm not necessarily saying there is no way to go to a height of a certain mileage. That's not for me to say, because the fact that anytime you really discuss the topic with someone who is a flat earther, I'm coming from the standpoint scientifically that since I can't observe it, test it, and repeatedly do these things, it's not for me to really say, right? Whereas someone like yourself might, for instance, might say, we've landed on Mars. We got rovers on Mars. Well, if you're not the guy with that direct experience, and I'm not even talking about the one who made the rover in a hangar. We always have a family member who's done something in the space agencies. But I'm just saying that if you aren't actually experiencing these things, it's not your reality right now, per se. So we acknowledge and I say we as if I'm speaking for flat Earth, but I'm not. I'm just sharing the fact that we, you and me, can accept the fact that there's a Kármán line that's somewhat around 62 miles high. We have mesosphere, ionosphere, all types of different atmospherics that are going on, right? So who's to really say how high can you go? I'm not here to say any of those things, right? So,
I mean, and maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit to other stuff, and if I am, please let me know. With that in mind, as far as the atmosphere, like it in general, is that something that's like thought of as that still there, like, or is that something that would be, like it's bad science and we just think it's there?
No, because technically speaking, weather is weather. Like, I had a nice day today. It was a nice day. The clouds are in the sky. The sun and the moon are in the sky. Things are happening, right? So we're not going to, like, obviously just abandon ship and say we're throwing it all out. Now everything is theory, per se. No, all we're really doing is looking at what can we see and what can we test. So, so you're talking about the atmosphere, per se. The characteristics that are described in the heliocentric model, which deals with the atmospherics, barometric pressure, and all of these other aspects that come with that, to a flat earther, we don't think that the ball earth model and its atmosphere holds up, because for one, when I'm looking at this at the ball earth, you have your atmosphere, which goes from the surface of the earth and extends out, correct? Like to a certain point. After a certain point, you have a sheath that's never talked about in science. When does it go from atmosphere to the vacuum of space, right? There has to be some kind of membrane or something. So it's totally suspect to a flat earther because it's never discussed in science. When the atmosphere ends, where is it technically? And why does this, for instance, the ISS, it's supposedly in microgravity, bouncing around in this area where it's still close enough to the ball Earth where it won't go, but the vacuum of space won't take it for what it wants it to take it for. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of discrepancy with the atmospheric and the Coriolis effect in general, if you even consider the ball Earth still. Once you are a flat earther and you talk about these aspects of density, moisture, air, pressure, and all of that, it's a whole different science when you're looking at it from that angle when it's flat. So I guess if you're trying to refute or just test or poke at the ball earth model, you can look at examples where people have gone up. Felix Baumgartner's Red Bull jump is a sort of like a popular pull for the ball earth crowd, where they say, look, Felix was in this capsule, he went up really high, he opens up the door, it shows him outside, it's ball earth, and he drops. So we see that every day when we talk about flat earth. That is a perfect example of the atmospherics at play. And you say, look, it's working perfectly. Felix is up there, it's a ball, he's in the atmosphere, he's jumping down. There's actually discrepancy with this supposed spin of the earth, right? For instance, when Felix opens up the chamber, there's a camera that's inside behind him. When he opens it up, the door rolls, it's a perfectly flat horizon. When you go to the camera that's outside of the Red Bull jump, you have a ball earth shape, but like 80% of what you see on the ground is dirt, which isn't. It's just basically New Mexico. Okay, it was a GoPro. It's a fisheye lens. We're finding discrepancies that break down this atmospheric fairy tale of Coriolis and vacuum sealed pressure. It's not there. In fact, as a matter of fact, even if it were a spinning ball Earth, he took almost 2.5 hours to get up there. When he dropped and made his descent, by the time he reached the ground, he only landed. Bear with me. He only landed a few miles from when he ascended. If it were a ball Earth, he should have landed, especially going up for 2.5 hours. He would have landed in the Pacific Ocean somewhere, according to the spin. Because I whether I'm a ball earther or a flat earther, I'm sorry, I just don't buy. You have to buy that, in my opinion. I don't buy that this atmosphere keeps everything in a condensed, locked, uniform position as the ball spins. I mean, how could that be? To me, I mean, look at volcano plumes of smoke. A volcano erupts, you see dust go up. You should see the dust be left behind as the ball spins. You would see this after effect of where it exploded, but the ball earth spins, and now you got this trail. No, a volcano explodes, the plumes just sitting there for hours straight above it. That's not.
How would you? So when people say that, how would you explain? Because I think what people would then say is that it's in an atmosphere.
I understand that.
And then then we go back to the discussion on the atmosphere. Then right?
Go ahead.
Oh no, wait.
Okay, so here's another example of that, right? Mm-hmm. This is like a This is atmospheric and Coriolis effect is really what I believe we're talking about here. Coriolis. So for a lot of people will say a sniper has to account for the shot. Okay, if the sniper has to account for a bullet going a certain direction, either north or south, because we're spinning. If the sniper's shooting northbound, he's going to have to compensate for that shot because of the Coriolis and because of the spin. If that were true, we would see. Okay, so if that were true, why don't we see then hot air balloons? Hot air balloons can just hover right above. They're not moved. There's no spin that's happening underneath the earth because you're in a hot air balloon. Or think of it this way: if you're sitting under a tree, okay, and the earth is spinning eastbound, why do we still feel the slightest breeze of wind westwardly? As you're sitting under a tree, we should be feeling. To a flat earther, we are saying, you aren't excusing my size for the shape. You don't get that excuse with me. I should be feeling the spin. I should be feeling this motion. We should be seeing parallax of the celestial bodies because of the motion, and we don't.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, kind of similar with that in mind, though at a much smaller scale. Like when you're driving in a car, for example, at speed, a lot of what you're feeling is the change in the rate of speed. Like the acceleration or deceleration while you're moving. And then other stuff would be based on friction of the tires on the road and all that, slowing you down partially. But if you were to, if we removed friction from that equation and it was just a perfect constant rate of speed, you don't feel as though you would, if you're going 75 miles an hour inside a car, it's not the same as if you're standing outside in the wind hitting it.
I understand. Totally fair. Okay, here's the other thing, though. We have to remember the heliocentric model is moving us in 3 different directions right now. Not only are we spinning 1,000 miles an hour, we're going around the sun 67,000, and our solar system itself is going 500,000 miles an hour in another direction. 3 totally different directions that we don't feel any type of adjustment or change. Now let's bring it down a notch. That's too high scale. The spinning ball Earth states that it's 1,039 miles per hour at the equator, the spin. But if you travel up that ball, let's say you go halfway, that's 750 miles. If you go up 75% of the way, you're at 200 miles an hour of your spin. The spin is fastest around the equator. So if you're flying from Maine and you're going down to Peru, when you step off that plane, you should feel dizzy or sick or some kind of difference, some kind of oddity, like you would at sea, maybe if you got sea legs. Okay, we don't feel the difference in our spin from a longitude, latitude, excuse me, longitude and latitude, quite honestly, because if you're coming from the top end down to the equator, you should feel the difference in spin. Here's the other part. We'll bring it down a notch even more. If you were in an airplane or a train or a car and you're saying to yourself, well, I'm traveling this amount of miles an hour, I shouldn't feel anything. If I go, boop, if I just tap my brakes,
you feel it.
If I tap it, you're going to feel that shit good. However, that's besides the point. What we're really trying to bring the attention to is the direction. if you're moving forward in a train and you are attempting to run forward and jump forward, I believe you won't clear as much distance. If you're in a train and we're talking about cabin pressure. There's that has nothing to do with feeling the outside momentum.
Yeah.
If you're in the train and you're running downstream of the train and jump, you're gonna go further when you jump. Okay, but here's the real kicker on the whole atmospherics part. If you're in an airplane and you're saying, hey, I can't tell that I'm flying at 700, 500 miles an hour because I'm in cabin pressure. What happens when you just open one window? Zoom, right?
Southwest.
Right?
Yeah.
So the point I'm trying to make is I'm in a room with you, and it's called the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And we're supposedly moving 1,000 miles an hour in this room together. Do we feel it, or do we hear the rush of wind? Where is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't feel it at all.
Exactly. And so now we have to either you have a choice. You could either dissect what you've been told and who told you these things, or you could feel them with your senses. And now we're getting to the crux of this whole issue. Do we trust our senses, or are we cut off from them? Have we been educated out of our senses? That's what I'm here to say. Is the answer is yes. Fuck yes. Yes. Not because of the fact that it's just about that, using your God-given senses. Some people go flat based on that. They're like, yeah, I don't feel it. I'm not letting anyone tell me what I can and cannot feel. That's besides the point. There are actual scientific tests. Michelson-Morley experiment, Michelson-Gale, Sagnac, and Aries failure. These are all scientific experiments which you do not know about, which show for a fact that the stars and the sun and the moon and all these other celestial bodies are in motion, and we're not. If I go to a Ball Earth convention and I say, hey, where's your natural science on the fact that we're spinning on the outside of a ball? They're going to say, NASA, man, or we got pictures, man. Dude, what the fuck? Obviously it's a ball, man. No, and that's not what I'm asking. I'm not trying to be a dick here or arrogant, but that's how this subject comes off. Yeah. I'm asking, where's your actual natural science experiment where it shows that there's spin? And if you tell me that it's the pendulum, the Foucault pendulum, well, I don't want to say everyone. If you are going to use the Foucault pendulum as your example for motion and spin, you need to ask those people at the Natural Science Museum how they start them. They push them. That's how they get the Foucault pendulum to move, and they tell you that's because of the spin. That's a big lie right there. That's a tell sign. And they know. I mean, a lot of people in that sector feel uncomfortable because there are people who do ask these questions, right? So,
which, I mean, it's even kind of, I mean, when you say that they push it, it almost makes perfect sense because we don't have a perpetual motion machine. Like, they have to start it somewhat.
Correct.
I mean, yeah.
Okay, I'm not convincing you. I'm just sharing with you where the information that I've found in regards to that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, so if we've established that it's not spinning, or, like that the science behind the curvature and all that is questionable, like, even, I mean, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but thinking about it, it seems like if we're thinking about it in terms of a scale that we can observe, if we remove space and space exploration from the equation,
right,
then there's no one who can really observe, because the only times it really comes into play is if we're leaving.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's the issue. Okay, so in first of all, they've been saying it's a ball for a long time. Even, in fact, before Columbus, people think, the uneducated think that Columbus's journey was to prove it was a ball. No, they all knew it was a ball before he left, okay? That's the consensus. Educate yourself now if you need to or not. It was always a ball before Columbus left. However,
didn't Aristotle prove that, or somebody? I'm trying to remember.
Well, right. Well, so some people, I don't know where along the way. I don't know where this Columbus, it's like we call it the error of the flat Earth. It's like this weird implant to make Columbus prove the ball as whatever. Okay, but
You made a good rhyme in school.
maybe something like that, right? Like a folk tale. But where are we going with this?
I think well, we were talking about as far as Columbus. Everyone, at least people in the know, knew that the Earth was, or knew that the Earth was a globe.
Right.
At that point in time, and didn't believe that it was flat like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, it really does make you wonder, like, where did that whole thing start? Because, I mean, I'm sure all of us were taught that in grade school.
Where did the spheres begin?
Well, yeah, like, in grade school, I'm sure all of us were taught, that Columbus thought the Earth was flat. And then we learned later that that wasn't true at all. It just kind of makes you wonder, like, what was even the point of that? Like, if it wasn't true, then why did we learn about it?
Well, I know. I mean, the public school sector, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we're taught, and from my perspective, that I feel is it serves a different type of purpose as far as, the demographics of our society. I mean, we need people on the spinning ball Earth for a lot of different reasons, which is a whole different deep conversation, but let's go there, I guess. But what's the next real talking point that you want to dissect as far as
cool? Well, just a few things to touch on. And I'm sorry, this whole time, it's so crazy how like something can work and then not work out of nowhere. It was completely fine, but now we won't be able to put on certain images that I actually wanted to put on. Yeah. Something I wanted to touch on, because when people talk about round Earth, I just want to dip into it regardless, just because a lot of people watching, they want to know still what it's like. Well, what is Flatearth? The basics, you know what I mean? Like, what's, and even if it's not on the same side as like, what you believe in, with some flat earthers, it has been said, and I don't know how you feel about this, about an ice wall. A lot of people have talked about an ice wall. Some of the images I'll show on here, just to give people an idea, it would just be basically that. Mm-hmm. It'd just be a giant ice wall if you were to go to Antarctica, and that's what you would see. But you would see that around the entire edge, as if it was a disc. And I guess the best way to show that, and hopefully you folks can actually see it. Let me see if I can pull up an actual flat Earth map. Which, how do you feel about that? The flat Earth map.
Me?
Yeah, like kind of like what's on the cover of the book. That's actually what I want to actually show.
Absolutely. Basically, when I was first introduced to this map, I thought, okay, there's going to be obvious discrepancy here, because what you're doing is you're flattening out the globe. Excuse me. Which means de facto we have the South Pole as the perimeter, and it's azimuthal equidistant. And the other aspect to this is I thought, okay, well these outer extremities should be spread out even wider. Because we are flattening it out, so
right.
But this is a thing where this is a curiosity portion of this subject matter, where people do want to fill in the gaps and what is the shape. I can't myself confirm, because I haven't done this, that we are surrounded by an ice wall that is 100%. Our perimeter.
So the ice wall doesn't even have to be like a circle. It could be like a different shape. We don't know.
Well, so what I'm getting at is that I suspect that the power structure gives secrets in plain sight. You may have heard that term. Mm-hmm. But the shape of Antarctica on the ball is the perimeter shape. So instead of it being a circular wall, you have the actual shape of Antarctica as the actual shape of the perimeter. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, I get you.
I could try to pull up a picture later, but nevertheless, here's the...
It's funny that the world... You just mentioned how they put things in plain sight, and the World Health Organization symbol is the flat Earth map. That's kind of funny.
Isn't that also like the UN map is the...
Right. The UN map has no Antarctica on it. Right, and it's 33 sections that you see there. And for those who are comfortable with tying their conspiracy with, the infrastructure, then you're going to see an obvious glaring sign here that the UN map is a flat map, as also the U.S. Geological Survey map they use that as well. There's no Antarctica there. The fact that there is no indigenous race that comes from Antarctica is a very interesting thing as well. The other talking point with Antarctica is that if you Google average height of Antarctica, it's extremely higher than all the other continents. The average height in Antarctica is like 8,000 feet or some ridiculous number. I don't know. But that alone should tell you that the Antarctica perimeter, whatever shape it may be, circular, square, diamond, obscure, however, maybe there's openings, that shape, that wall is high. And it's keeping our ocean waters in. That's freshwater ice, not saltwater ice.
Interesting. Huh. Okay. So, and then, there's so many other things I want to get into with that in terms of the beyond of that. So, but things that make you go, like, that's kind of like another topic I want to get into because, I mean, where I first stepped into, like, actually, being open-minded about this was the fact that, when people started talking about Christopher Columbus, right? And like and it's not taught in school no more. Like, but we were taught in school, like when Christopher Columbus Day came, that was like the highlight of the entire day. Every teacher, every class that we went to was like Christopher Columbus, and this is what he did for us, and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden to find out that now we don't recognize that anymore, and that it's just like, a topic that's not talked about in most public schools. That's crazy to me. That's just like, wait, we were taught that was, he found America. It was founded by him, and it was just such a great person. He didn't do no wrong. And then all of a sudden to find out that he was like this, smallpox giving, like, I don't know. It just, what do you think?
That's what the Jesuits were up to. They were going, they have this ball, they'd land on the shore, and these guys would be coming up. Who are you? And then whoa! We come on these ships. Earth's a ball. Look, we come on the ocean. It's like this. This is the shape. Like, that's what we're dealing with. And it was this influence and this power structure that has always been at the leading edge of this indoctrination. That's a very interesting subject matter. But the thing of it is, aside from flat Earth, people are starting in their well, let's just call it our what did I call them? Our senses, right? We're sensing that this whole Columbus thing was just another genocide issue. Our indigenous races have been demolished. We knew it, technically speaking, in our minds, but now we're growing up to realize that this is stolen time and stolen land to a degree. It depends on how honest you are with that.
Right.
That's not to even disrespect those who fought for civil wars and these other small pockets of time. It's very interesting. It's a very complicated human story that we're dealing with. But what's unlocking right now is the fact that there is no actual measurable curvature. And if you don't have that, you don't get your ball anymore. And the people are prepared. Some aren't. Some are still coming into this. Some people are prepared to throw it all out. We've thrown it all out. We enough bullshit, okay? As your channel grows and you cover all those other topics that you probably want to talk about, I'm not calling them bullshit. I'm talking about Trilateral Commission, crypto Jews, Zionism, the whole 9 yards, right? Usury, right? Fractional reserve banking. All of these major issues that globe earthers think that flat earthers don't care about are important. And what's going to happen is you're going to say, okay, enough with the bullshit. Because you're going to say 99% of what they're doing is manipulation, but you're going to believe them on their bullshit. Don't. Okay? Because test their science. Test it hard.
Right.
Anyway.
No, and then I guess another... Do you have anything to say on that, Kyle?
Just to add, I think that's an interesting point to make, is just it, regardless of whether it is a sphere or it's flat, like it is still, the problem is that if you remove curvature, then that removes like a lot of the argument there. Like there are still some unanswered questions about like gravity, or how the poles and like magnetism works.
Yep.
But it really makes it tough. And then it's hard to argue the fact too that even if it may not be to hide the fact that the Earth is flat and not round, there are a lot of things in our educational system that are based around control and like producing the quote unquote proper type of person for what they want society to be, and so it's, That's all I had to say on that.
Interesting.
Well, thanks for seeing it for what it is in that regard, because a lot of people don't want to go there.
Right.
I kind of want to reply to that and say that the gravity discussion is important. It's not something I want to beat around the bush either. The magnetism, the tides, and gravity are all things that one will uncover as they research this themselves. Look, no person should ever. In fact, this is exactly how we got into this situation. People coming into your life and telling you what's what. I'm not telling you what's what. I'm telling you that you have the power to decide what's what, instead of what you've been told what's what. So gravity, in my perspective, is density and buoyancy in a song and dance between mass and density. Right, so dense objects float. If you have an object in a room, if it's lighter than the air in this room, it will float. If it is denser than the air surrounding it, it will fall. Done. What goes up must come down. Done. That's it. Now, gravity suffers from a characteristic that it doesn't display in the real world. This is something I never considered until I went flat. There is no inverse square law. Now think about this. If Earth has gravity, where is it most potent? At its core, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Therefore, as you travel further away from that center of gravity, gravitational pull is lighter. Right? Yeah. Simple. However, when that object now descends back to that core, it only goes at the same speed.
Yeah, it stays at a constant rate.
Inverse square law says that no, it shit should accelerate and go zzz, bam. It doesn't do that.
Huh. I didn't think of that either, actually.
Yeah, it's they call it what, terminal velocity?
That's gonna make you go,
No, they don't have there's no I would think there'd be a science to. Actually, I've never thought of that. That's crazy. I actually didn't think of it. The fact that it should go. I mean, if it's a core, it's most strongest. You should get faster and faster and faster. I thought that you did though, but maybe it's because I play Fortnite. When I angle myself, I like go faster. I don't know. Fuck.
No, that's fine. I mean, every single talking point in this should stop you and say, "I think this," and then you spend the night looking into it, and you save the rest for the next day. Okay. Because I'll be straight up, dude. I've met a lot of people, and who have done this process, and grown ass men like me, older than me, and I swear it's a thing we laugh about. But our wives or whoever, they catch us at 2 a.m. on our computers and shit, looking suspect as hell. But we're researching flat Earth. You know, follow me there, right? It's that intriguing. We're up late at night, researching the diameter of the pupil. How can it resolute an object that's so far away? How does this all compute? How does density, buoyancy, rotation, everything comes back into question with flat Earth, and which is another reason why this shit is exploding, is because people are now seeing that there's a capacity to use their mind and find things out that they not only they're not going to laugh it off once you quiet your mind enough to research this and you let your ego go and all that other bullshit. But once you kind of look at the facts and the natural science and the fact that other shit can't be repeated, this globe right here, technically speaking, it has mass. On a finite level, assuming the theory of gravity, that should be attracting other objects on a finite level. But nevertheless, no matter how big this object will be or how dense it will be, you'll never be able to pour your beer on it and watch it just stick to it and spin on it. Your beer will slide right off.
Like even if it had like a little, you know how people can create models, like they make like little mini tornadoes and things like that. You think that maybe if they were to stick like some type of magnetism, some type of artificial core inside of that globe, do you think we could make that model? We could actually make water attached to that?
Isn't that how it's spinning is by magnetism right now? Like it has a magnetic core in there.
Well, at the bottom though. But I'm saying, what if it was in the center? And I mean, that's weird. I mean, that should make people think that there is no model out there where there's a globe with water on it. You know
well, so I think, interestingly enough, it all does kind of go back to mass, doesn't it? I mean, in the argument of the sphere is that the mass is so big that the magnetic core so large that that's what's allowing it to attract that and hold it in.
Fair.
But it like you were saying though, with the gravity, like mass, if you're falling, the speed that you're going to fall is directly related to your mass. Like you will not fall faster than
inverse square law. But the other thing too is that let me bring something
unless
to your
you're
attention.
a World Trade Center building. I'm sorry.
Easy, Tiger. Easy. No, that's totally welcome. Totally welcome.
I think the other thing that I thought was kind of interesting though is that with you pointing that out, you know, that you're not going to go any faster. What we can measure a difference based on height is atmospheric pressure, and I just think it's interesting because that still kind of ties into what you were saying about like buoyancy and that, like it's kind of related to that. You know, so that's something we can measure, but it doesn't necessarily disprove anything.
It doesn't. That's why earlier I said weather's weather, man. Right? Remember I was like, it doesn't mean just because it's a flat Earth sphere doesn't mean we're not going to have nice weather, storms, thunder. You know, people wonder, well, how does thunder work on a flat Earth? Well, fuck, it works the way it works now, motherfuckers. I'm playing. I'm sorry. But here, let me take a step back. Core. The core has never. We've only drilled 8 miles deep. Humanity. Yeah. Russia.
And we could hear hell too when we dug that.
Was that nuts? Was that crazy? Was that real? All right.
I just think they were at a Aftershock concert or something.
Maybe they bumped into a gray compound or something. All right, but nevertheless, we've only gone 8 miles deep. So in its second nature, I'm not here to call you out, but you're like, but the core is molten. Right? Or the core is this, the core is that. You don't fucking know what the core is. We don't know what and matter of fact, since we've never seen the core, drilled to the core, repeated to the core, right? That's that science jargon that I'm going to just keep going with. Observable, testable, repeatable. I'm not going to confirm that there is a gosh dang core if we haven't even been to it or seen it or had some experience with it. We've only drilled 8 miles deep. So regardless of the other evidence of pictures of the ball Earth or whatever, if the argument was just that, if we were just putting that on the table, you can't tell me there's a core when we only went 8 miles deep.
Could be hollow.
Could be. You feel me?
Yeah.
It doesn't. It eliminates that. And that's the problem that most ball earthers have, is because a flat earther gets rid of the established assumption. The definitions and axioms that you work with aren't provable, nor have they been observable, testable, and repeatable half the time. So when you get to a state of mind where you're comfortable with your quote-unquote God-given senses, you surprisingly have more confidence in the fact with what you've got, with what you're equipped with, as opposed to the operated assumption and the establishment of curvature and establishment of science.
Cool. So something else I was thinking, and this is just for more people thinking it more, because some of the things we might be talking about might be going over people's heads. So some things that people kind of tell me on a normal basis, and I'll get into the moon and things like that. You know, the fact that it's round and that we must obviously,
at the moon right now, as a matter of fact,
right? and we obviously must be on a round, Earth. And so. And again, I don't know the answer to that, but something that I've always thought to myself is that there's these, I wouldn't call them equations, but I guess things that we're supposed to know. Like, for instance, when a ship is leaving, like I remember at the end of Peter Pan, when the ship was going down and that little crocodile was chasing him, the ship was going down further and further and further down, right? So that means, oh yeah, the Earth's round. I just told myself that as a kid. The Earth's round. Obviously, it's going to go over the curve. And so something I'll kind of just put on the screen real quick is that you can actually see, like for instance, this person is zooming in and You know what I mean? And then, oh, there's a ship. You know what I mean? Now, granted, the ship's going sideways, but regardless, it still works in the same way.
Correct.
And then what's going to be really crazy is that is 20 times zoom, I think it is, that they're actually using. That's just, I mean, you can see the ship there. And when they zoom back out, I mean, if you were there where he's at, with the naked eye, you wouldn't be able to see that ship. You would have assumed already, 50 times, never mind. You would have assumed already, 100. You would have assumed by looking out into the ocean, you didn't see the ship. It must have gone over the curvature. You would have thought that already.
Correct.
But I think that's crazy.
So now that we have the beginning listener in a mental state of ships go over the horizon, okay? Picture this.
Boom.
Yeah, see that? Okay.
And it's like you, with your naked eye, you never would see that ship.
I'll be quite honest with you. This is an okay example. Mm-hmm. There are phenomenal. That was
there's actually better ones.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter. Regardless, mm-hmm. Okay. Well, it does matter to though. I'm sorry, I'm getting arrogant. Like there are. It doesn't matter to a veteran person who's done the line of sight tests. I mean, you could either do the test yourself, or you can look at other people's tests, or you could even look at ball earthers who are getting captures of stuff far away. They're not even questioning the shape; they're just getting the footage, and that has been analyzed, and basically the discrepancy of curvature, a lack of curvature, is apparent. That's when you get to that point. But never mind the numbers. I don't even want to discuss it with the ship going over the horizon with numbers. Let me talk to you about the ship going over the horizon that has to do with just common perception. Like I can just discuss this with you without it being tied to an equation or in a formula. So we have to hold two ideas in our minds at once for this one. Okay, we are an observer who is at the beach. Our toes are on the water, and we're looking at the boat leaving our point of view. That's the left side of your brain. You're there. The other side of your brain, let's imagine we're going up, up, up in an amateur weather balloon without a fisheye lens, and we are at 121,000 feet. The picture, we're hovering in a balloon, 121,000 feet, and we see a flat horizon. Okay? Hold those two things in our mind at once. The ship is on the left side, the weather balloon's on the right side. Okay? When we're in that weather balloon and we're at 21,000 feet high, the horizon line is typically 400 miles across. Mm-hmm. Okay? I have a picture here of another one that's 360,000 feet high. That's 700 miles across horizon.
Could you, but if you have any pictures you have to, you can show it on that camera right there.
This one right here?
Yeah.
Okay. We're holding two ideas in our mind at once. Okay? Mm-hmm. You might want to plug the phone. The weather balloon image has a flat horizon 400 miles across with no curvature. It's flat. Mm-hmm. Then think about this. How is anyone going to make the argument that a ship is sailing over a curvature when it's just at your feet, which is a tiny perspective of that horizon line? You follow me?
Because, instead of looking across the horizon, you're looking down at the ship, right?
Well, because you're a human being that's on the shore, your eyes and your experience, you're only going to be able to see so far anyway. Mm-hmm. And if you see the ship disappear and you say that's where curvature begins, now I'm saying hold that thought, come over here to this side and see that it's completely flat. Where did it go over hypothetically? It didn't, because look at all this flat terrain. It still has to travel. And this is just, I'm saying this is just the video evidence.
Yeah.
But I don't like to make the flat Earth argument about the video evidence, because the deception is in the video evidence. So we're not going to prove that the Earth is flat with video evidence if we already have an establishment of curvature. NASA, which gets paid $50 million a day, why would they lie? $50 million a day to make this illusion happen, I'm not going to win this argument by showing you shit on TV.
50 million?
I'm going to win the argument by sharing the curvature formula with you for a sphere Earth, and then having you see shit that you didn't think possible. For instance, anyone in Sacramento or NorCal, if you're driving eastbound on 50 and you see the Sierra snow-tipped mountains on a nice spring day, I just want you to know, Echo Summit, if you ever drove to up 50 and down 50, Echo Summit's at 7,300 feet. Tahoe's 109 miles away from Sacramento. There should be over 7,000 feet of curvature. So why are you even seeing a mountain peak at that distance? You can see from Sacramento the peaks, the El Dorado Hills, and damn near the base of the mountain from Sacramento. Mm-hmm. You should only be able to see the snow-capped tops from Sacramento if you had curvature. That's my discernment on the situation.
What's the measurement on that with because I was always wondering with that, like, because like maybe like, you know, people talk about what is the flattest place on Earth, Kansas, and so
here's your curvature formula in miles.
Let's see.
How was the show there?
Mm-hmm.
If 100 miles is basically from here to Tahoe is 100 miles. We should have 6,669 feet, of curvature. 6,700 feet of curvature from here to 100 miles. And shit, I can see. As a matter of fact, when I come down, actually, as a matter of fact, when I'm sitting in Sacramento, if I look to the west, I can see the Bay Area hills. If I look to the east, I can see the Sierras. That means you're seeing. That means you're seeing it like this, in a flat plane. And for instance, if I can see something at 100 miles away, I automatically assume that on the other end of it is another 100 miles of visibility.
Let's see.
And that's crazy because it's. And I also, well, I guess the next question someone would say is, because I'm thinking to myself, well, you know, the Earth, you know, the way it was formed and everything, we have something called tectonic plates. And the tectonic plate can be flat, even though it'd be on this kind of round surface. There'd still be like tectonic plates connected to this round surface. And so there would be large areas that are flat. I mean, what would...
So like a potato in space? Or almost like okay, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying with the tectonic plate argument, what I kind of get from that is that people are trying to infer that it's a misglobulated oblate spheroid type odd potato shaped
rock. It's oblate.
Yes.
That's what the Neil deGrasse, what was his name?
Neil deGrasse Tyson, yes. But here we see the official image from NASA. Is that oblate?
It looks pretty round.
So if they're going to hide behind the fact that
that is the official picture too.
Yeah. When I was a kid though, I had a globe and it had the mountains. You could feel it. You know, it was nice and textured.
Yes, yes. Now, given the fact that's a fair observation, but what we're talking about is the sphericity of the actual mass.
Yeah.
So the discrepancies between mountain ranges per se aren't going to throw off the curvature formula for the given circumference of 24.9 thousand miles of the circumference.
Well, yeah, because I would guess the problem lies in that this whole giant area here is filled with water and doesn't have like mountains that are higher than sea level, right? And so that's all that would be in this model. It would be a flat surface or a smooth circle there. Yeah, I guess flat wouldn't be on the sphere. But
well, I understand. Smooth, absolutely. We're not going to see discrepancies in mountain ranges from this distance.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So it's kind of like a moot point.
This thing is your little graph here. It's really tripping me out because I'm thinking about. So I'm looking at this like 20 or 30 miles, and how much the drop would be.
Yep.
And then thinking about like sea level places because when I was a kid, I lived in the Bay Area, and we lived on the Sunol Ridge. Mm-hmm. So from one direction, I could see all of Dublin and Pleasanton.
Yep.
Another, I could see San Jose. And then on a clear day, on the other end, I could see the Bay Bridge. So looking at that, it's like, how would that?
And I'm not taking that away from you because hypothetically speaking, we see these things and we fill the gaps because we know they're there.
Yeah.
But what we don't fill the gaps with is the actual discrepancy in how much curvature should be there.
Well, if
Now,
anything, that's what's interesting, because I look at that and I'm like, 600 feet drop for approximately 30 miles.
Yep.
And you think of like San Francisco,
30 miles?
Sea level.
Yes.
And the Bay Bridge, like, I'm guessing it's not like 600 or 700 feet tall.
No.
Yeah.
No. And so let me kind of go forward with this. The old observations from the late 1800s, Samuel Rowbotham wrote this in Zetetic Astronomy. There are tons of nautical mile observations where people are on sailboats and they're coming to the harbor and they have lighthouses. They're able to see the light from 30, 40, 50 miles out. The light source, not refraction, not any fairy tale thing. The light. Mm-hmm. They're able to see the lighthouse. And with that being said, knowing the curvature formula based on this radius, see, we're only worried about this. This part doesn't matter. This other 3/4 of the globe shape of the sphere doesn't matter. We're taking center point to radius, 3,959 miles. What's the curvature based on being in the middle of that, right? So that being said, these other extrapolations, when discussing why do we see this lighthouse from such a distance, there's missing numbers in feet of curvature. Mm-hmm. So when do you throw your hands up and say, when do you throw your hands up and say, let the earth be true and every man a liar? When? How many examples of line of sight distance, because that's what a real flat earther is going to do. They're going to keep it about the ground. All the insecurity comes in when you want to talk about eclipses, talk about all the other crap, about the celestial motions of bodies that are going on above you. Save it. What's going on this ground? Why is there a lack of curvature? And who has been telling us that it is curved? And who are they? That's what it boils down to. So, I got a little heated there. But
no. Passion.
Passion.
So,
passion. Of course, because everybody holds the earth with some sort of revelry.
Mm-hmm.
Do we not? Like, it's our earth. You know, as a matter of fact, I found Flat Earth on Earth Day in 2015, dude. Somebody was trolling, like, Flat Earth. Somebody was trolling Earth pictures. Like, it was Mother Earth, Save Our Earth, Earth Day, blah, blah, blah. Someone was in the comments like, FE is the truth. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, it's way past my bedtime. What is this, though? What is this FE shit? Yeah. And I happened to be one of the nights where Eric Dubé did a radio show on, I think it was Tinfoil Hat. I could be wrong. But Eric Dubé did the Masonic Matrix Manipulators. If you have a time to watch that after this, watch it. It's called Eric Dubé, The Masonic Matrix Manipulators. It's one of the first Flat Earth interviews I ever listened to, and it blew my top. After that, I was introduced to Math Powerland's work. And Eric Dubé is like the info guy. He's like your right brain. If you want facts, he'll destroy you with facts. If you want the art and the passion and the humanity, I say go with Math Powerland's video called This Crazy Notion. This Crazy Notion. And that one will anyway. Yeah. That's overkill. But yes. And matter of fact, Math, his name's Matt. He's a friend of mine. He painted this. This is a painting. See how it says photo or painting?
Yeah.
The argument is, how would you know? You've never been here. Mm-hmm. From this perspective. So we're taking the power back of observation, saying, fuck you, I don't care what you're saying, showing, I see flat. Okay?
I mean, shoot, man, even the picture looks kind of flat, you know?
It's on a flat piece of paper.
I know.
and that's actually something Matt would like. Matt would be smiling if he heard you say that, because Matt says, he's like, every time you've even seen a ball Earth, it's been on a flat monitor, right? Yeah. Yeah, you've never seen a sphere Earth, period.
I mean, what about? There's another thing too. This is from 90 miles away. You're still actually able to see the other island.
Yeah,
That's
ouch.
That'd be 1,800 feet.
Ouch. Now, for the intellectuals,
Oh, okay. It's 5,402 foot drop of curvature.
yeah, no, it's once you go, personally, Anthony, it's 6 miles is all you need. 6 miles will tell you if you're being screwed with or not. The Bedford level experiment, which was done day one, is the one, and in fact, I think it's best proved under short distance, not long distance, in my opinion. Because this is about the math. This is about the science. This is about the observation.
Which is a part of science.
You bet your ass, man.
Right?
But this makes the common man the scientist, which they're too afraid and chicken shit to do. Not to mention the fact that America may have a backbone issue right now. I don't care what subject matter you're interested in, whether it's race or someone taking a knee or whatever. I think we have a backbone issue going on, and this one separates the men from the boys. Right. So if you're going to freak out over me being here talking about flat Earth, and if you're going to freak out and think that you know what you're talking about, I'm telling you to go back and test it all. Test the globe.
Exactly.
Do it with the same ferocity you want to project on me. Find out what happens. Because everybody who does drops the ball.
So my next thing is because somebody will say, okay, well maybe I am starting to believe in this flat Earth thing. So then the next thing that happens is, well then if it is flat, let's say, what in the world are the sun and the moon doing?
That's what I was gonna say. I was wondering that.
Okay, let's talk about it from a scientific perspective first before we get into hypothetical shit. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that we save time. What I have kind of discovered in a way is that I reject the heliocentric model. It's not the distance that it is. Okay, before we go into where it is, what shape it is it flat? Excuse me. You need to debunk.
So we can see that on the screen.
Or test. Okay, that's fair. You need to test the model that you've been given. The fact that we observe crepuscular rays, sun rays coming down through the clouds shows us, let me flip this over, shows us
we got a whole back page
that the sun is not 93 million miles away. I don't agree with some of these numbers, but here's the general consensus on the sun and the moon. It also explains why you get these perfect eclipses. The sun and the moon are closer than you ever imagined. They are not 93 million miles away for the sun, and they are not 238,000 miles away for the moon. Here's one reason why the moon's not that far away. Your eyeball, which is only 2 to 3, your iris, which is only 2 to 3 millimeters in diameter, is only physiologically able to resolute an object within a given distance. You're not actually looking at craters on the moon that are 50 miles wide. You're not looking at those craters on the moon with your naked eye. That's 238,000 miles away.
Not Bruce Lee.
You're looking at an object that's much closer than you've been told. Okay? That's the first one. The sun, with its crepuscular rays, meaning that the rays vector out or down in a V shape, tells you point blank, if you're trusting your senses, that is, that the sun is close. That the sun is close. Otherwise, we would be experiencing parallel sun rays dropping down, cascading on our landscapes based on its size and our distance from it. And I'm not buying what anyone has to say with the light entering the atmosphere splits it up and bends it out and all that bullshit. Why? Because I already just got done telling you there ain't no damn curvature. You know, if there's no curvature, I'm not going to play along with what you want to tell me about the sun rays, okay? So, the sun, the moon are intimate, they're close.
So what if it's closer, like the 93 miles, but it's still going around a globe, meaning Like for me, for instance, something that kind of gets to me is based on the model we're seeing here, the sun and the moon going around. If you were a little person on that planet, or I shouldn't say planet, a plane, you're going to see literally the sun coming towards you. So if it's coming towards you, even it's probably, we can agree that it's pretty big, at least the size of what, Texas or something, right? Can we say that or no?
Not necessarily. Here's the thing.
Because wouldn't it? I guess my thing I'm trying to say is, wouldn't it be with the sun coming at you? Wouldn't it be getting bigger?
Right. So the sun is a topic of conversation all its own once you enter the flat Earth. There are people who are attributed to a circular sun path like we see here. Okay. Now there's actually good reason, speculative reason, to state that each nation is experiencing its own type of sun. We're not actually all seeing the same one. You can't pinpoint the sun in the sky. You cannot triangulate the sun. It's damn near impossible.
So when we're seeing the sun, maybe someone in Russia seeing the sun.
Well, what I'm saying is that the sun being small, in the range of like 30 minutes, or not minutes, excuse me, that was arc minute, 30 miles in diameter. Think of it in that sense. Very tiny, 30 miles in diameter sun. Now, some people say 3,000 miles up, but a lot of us in the early years were saying that, but that's because we knew it just wasn't 93 million miles. A lot of flat earthers don't use the consensus of 3,000 miles up anymore. I've seen Samuel Rowbotham use plane trigonometry to solve the sun's height at around 700 miles high. That's his information, but what's up? Go ahead.
I think my only question in regards to the sun, like, isn't necessarily whether it would be bigger or smaller as it's coming towards or away from you.
Okay.
But it's more if we're talking about a flat plane and a sun, specifically if a sun's rotating in a circle around it, you would always, like, there would be some light pollution, wouldn't there? Like, as far as, like, you wouldn't have a true night, or how do we explain, like, the poles or...
Great question, because when you're operating from a heliocentric perspective, the laws that are attributed to the sun is that the light travels at such a speed, it reaches us in 8 minutes, this all-pervading light, it's too powerful. What are you doing bringing the sun down to this degree, and you're not even adjusting for its luminosity? Well, I apologize. I also am inferring that the luminosity is now reduced. It's a incandescent light bulb. If we had an incandescent light bulb in the corner of the room, that corner would be good and lit, so to speak. We definitely would see a minor hotspot on that wall and a nice pervading glow in that corner. But right here with whatchamacallit here, it would be dark. Maybe a slight glow, maybe dusk, depending on how we make our model. But my point is that the sun isn't the powerful, godlike, effervescent beaming of light that you are taught that it is. It's a beautiful, low, magnetic...
So when we're seeing it go over the horizon, it's going further away from us, and that light, kind of like shown in the diagram, the light's kind of dim. Not dim, but it's not as strong as what we... Kind of like that. Okay.
That's all the visualization you need to understand that a local light works. That's it right there.
Though, and I understand it does kind of play into the fact that it's like, I'm thinking in a heliocentric view, but if the sun's power is lower, and so therefore it's not causing us to have like perpetual daytime or light pollution, how is it providing enough light to light up the moon then? How is the moon gaining its luminescence?
That's a heliocentric fairy tale, in my opinion, that the sun's light is giving off the glow for the moon. This is something you'll discover along the journey, that the moon is supposedly putting out its own light.
Oh,
how do we know that? Through experimentation. What that experimentation? Let me share with you the experimentation story about the moon, the most elusive and one of the most beautiful celestial bodies, in my opinion. I mean, the sun's cool and all, but the moon rocks. Check it out. In the late, I believe it was 1800s, they used, you know how we can use magnifying glasses to increase the sunlight and burn bugs or wood and make pictures. All right, so that was a given. They were like, okay, well, Earth's a ball and the light's just reflecting the sun's light. Let's do it with the moon. Let's make a beam with the moon. Well, they ended up using magnifying glasses that were, they had to be carted in. They were this big to magnify 10,000, 6,000 times the light of the moon. The thermometer, the mercury in that thermometer didn't even go up 1,000th of a degree. It is totally concluded that the moon is not cascading and projecting any of the sun's light. Somehow it is phasing and it is producing its own light. As magnificent and elusive and magical as that is. But hey, I'm here to tell you that the world you're living in is actually mystical, magical, and beautiful. But but most people think it's rigid, it's scientific, it's known. No, it's not. No, it isn't. The moon's light that you're seeing here has been tested as being its own light source. It is a cold light. And matter of fact, if you had, let's talk about carcasses and living and dead things in the light of the moon and the light of the sun. If you have a sunlight that goes over the desert and you got carcasses and things like that, when the sun's going over during the day, it's going to dry out that carcass. It's going to want to increase bug activity so the bugs eat it. It's going to do a certain thing that the sun's light will do. Once the moonlight comes through, especially if it's a full moon, anytime it's a full moon, it's much colder in the air. The air is going to be cold. You're going to have your moisture, and you're going to see that that decaying carcass is going to decay a different way, not the way of the sun. It will decay the way of the moon. So one last real quick point before I let you go, Anthony. Mm-hmm. If you are high noon and you're in the shade, high noon with the sun out, you go in the shade, you feel cooler, right? Natural. We all know that. If it's high midnight and you got a full moon, it's going to be hotter in the shade, and your gas is going to be colder under that moonlight if you expose yourself to it. This is testable. This is repeatable. The moon gives off cold light. Okay.
So moon gives off its own light, let's say that. So my next question would be, looking at this picture, when I see this picture of the moon, what is that? I do see a shadow onto that moon. So this is going to dip into eclipses.
Terminator line.
Right. So I'm seeing that right there. Like what would that be, that shadow? Would that be the Earth? Would that be maybe if it was flat but a disk maybe? But then again, the sun would be over it. How would it shine off the shadow of it in that way? I mean, there's so many questions when I see that.
Beautiful. Let's talk about all the ways the moon has a mystery that the globe Earth in the heliocentric model can't answer before we go there. Right? Mm-hmm. So we don't ever see the dark side of the moon in rotation. They say it's landlocked with us or some bullshit. Okay? There's your first discrepancy. We have craters and impacts that are facing us, but yet we know the moon is 1/82nd the size of the Earth. So how are these impact craters happening with the Earth's faces in front of it this whole time? What the fuck is that all about?
Oh, shit, yeah.
Okay.
Well, wait, so when we say we haven't seen the dark side of the moon, are we saying it as though, like, the moon is not also rotating on an axis as it surrounds us?
You've been told that it is.
And so it's just one side that's always dark?
It's one side that's always facing us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what this quote-unquote other side is because we can't observe it as people. And the science institution, Apollo 8, if you will, I'm not buying that. It's bullshit to me. It's all lies. So I can't even go... The moon... So here we are now reset discussing flat Earth, and we're in a mind state of, whoa, shit, we really don't know where we are. We don't really know what the moon is. That's the mentality you should have instead of the... I apologize for that. But that's the mentality that I have because I don't assume anymore. Right? So we only know that the moon is doing this weird type of like 15 degree type of like wobble. It's like, but it always faces us, but it's doing this like 15-degree thing where it spins over like a wheel. It's not actually rotating the way that we've been told.
Well, and so if it's doing that wobble, is the shadow on it as it waxes and wanes, is that still based on its relation to the sun, or?
I feel that you're correct. I feel it does have to do with where the sun's position is, but I feel that the moon is reacting to its position. The light isn't necessarily a result of the sun's beam and reflection. I think that the moon is aware of where the sun is, and it's phasing based on where its energy is. Because what I wanted to go into earlier, when I bring the sun and the moon down to a plane level where they're intimate with us, what happens is you realize the sun is an anode and the moon might be a cathode. One's positive, one's negative. And that pressure, the energy that's coming off one, and I'll say also the energy that's coming off the other, which is I could be wrong with that. But what I'm trying to describe is that one's positive, one's negative. One is pushing more barometric pressure in that salt water that moves that salt water as it moves. And the moon will allow the rise on its end, right? And the sun is and that's how we're getting this. That's how we're getting our tides. Is basically the sun and the moon are barometrically pressurized movements because they're pressing on that surface as it moves. You follow that? And then in old days, the tides mean the times. Time.
That's
the
true.
Tides are a representation of physical time. And the sun and the moon and the stars and the constellations are the perfect clockwork. The constellations,
Yeah.
We need to get a basis on that. When it comes to constellations, I don't know if you know about constellations, but I mean, I'm a novice when it comes to constellations, but have they always been stationary? I thought there were certain periods where the Dipper was on one side of the other side of the Earth, or these weren't here. Like in terms of the universe, we're all moving at the same time, or what the hell is going on?
Well,
like,
I mean,
what?
yeah, because building on that, isn't there different seasons? You'll have different constellations that you're able to view, and then the hemispheres also have different ones, but that could be a fixed thing if we're not including seasons into the mix.
Yeah. Well, to grasp your constellations, the big deal here with constellations is that there aren't parallax of the stars. So before we get into the mechanics of how these constellations are even moving and how they're the months and it's the clockwork, what we're talking about here is the fact that the constellations are fixed. If we were in the excuse you'll get with the heliocentric model is that, during the Big Bang, or whatever you want to call it, everything's in motion together. So we're all blasting off in this uniform effort, so that we shouldn't see parallax. That's the excuse. Okay, that's hypothetically speaking. But given the distances of given the speeds of the rotation of the Earth around itself on its axis, and then around the sun, and the sun moving through the solar system as a whole, the parallax should be apparent. If you can hold that image of your, let me explain. Parallax is like, think of it like this: when you're driving in the freeway, and you're a kid or whoever you are, you're just a passenger on a train, and you can look down the rows of like farm, like vegetation or almond trees. You see those lines go, and it looks like someone's like walking with you, or whatever you want to call it. The parallax is meaning that difference in shift between your perspective and that other object as you move through space. There should be a contrast or expansion of things as it moves. There is no parallax, which is a telltale sign that the stars are in motion and they're fixed where they are.
Didn't you
Now
have a
the
different?
season.
Oh, I think it's on the other side. I think there's a little. Oh, it's right here.
Yeah.
This one, right?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. But your question was seasons and how do seasons work. So if we were to go with the model, so here we have the North Pole center, right? We have our South Pole circumference. We have the Tropic of Capricorn, which is about 3/4 of the way, and around a quarter of the way, we have Cancer, which goes around in this little circle here. Cancer, Equator. I'm not perfect here.
Yeah.
And Capricorn. So, seasons. What's happening here is that, where are we right now? May. We're May.
Yep.
Okay? So here, let me describe this. This is what the sun is supposedly doing over the flat plane. And I'm gonna start here, and my finger's gonna start moving in motion, and we're gonna go forward in time quickly. The sun's path. Here we go. Right? The sun goes. It's going. I'm gonna exaggerate it now. Now we're getting into hot summer months. Hot summer. You see how quick, how minimal my sun rotation is? So we're going through summer. Damn, it's been a hot ass summer. All right, let's get to fall. Fall's coming. Now the sun's doing this. It starts doing this. Now we're going to winter. Now our sun's way out here. You notice how our winter, our nights are hella long and our days are short? That's because the sun's low hanging on your horizon. It comes up low. It barely even comes up. For us, it goes like this in the winter. Like this. Right? Winter. But what's happening is that's over a flat plane. It's coming into your perspective. It falls away from your perspective. It's not going down under anything. It's just leaving you. Just like, let me do this real quick with this. Just like this, Anthony. If the sun is setting, listen, if the sun is setting, the pier must also be setting. But now, what's it say? But how is the light reaching the beach over the curve? See, the point I'm trying to make here, what you experience, quote unquote, experience as a sunset is actually a sun exit. It's leaving your point of view. It's still high as hell. Well, high as hell to you is 93 million miles. High as hell to me is 700 miles high. But it's high, and it's leaving you in your perspective. And it's a local light, and it just disappears often, and it goes around. My divergent line here isn't to denote it going under the anything. I'm just saying it's going around. I'm just here to tell you that here's the West Coast. Here's off right here off Cali. It's going, as it goes away over here. Now it's completely out. It's out of our perspective. It goes this way, comes back around. Simple enough. Now the seasons are in play because it's going out and it comes up, and then it goes down and out. You see, seasons. Anyway, that's how it works. Supposedly that's how it works.
Well, now, that does raise an interesting question for me, though, like, using this as an example, because, so if it's on a flat plane, how is it that it's still appearing as though it's falling off the edge of a horizon? And I say that just, like, having experienced it myself, like,
without
watching
reduction in size.
Yeah, it's
exactly.
just, it goes,
well,
and then it's gone.
Exactly. From the naked eye, I suspect that the atmospherics, the moisture in the air, the lensing effect, atmospheric lensing, I feel that the sun is an experience to the observer. So see how the sun wants to come to our foot right here? If we were a few miles over here, guess what? They get to see one too, but it goes to them. So everyone does get to see their own sun in a sense. We're all experiencing our own... This, and that's funny, like the conversation you had down in the kitchen. We're all experiencing our own
perception, our own reality. Yeah.
So the light will travel to your feet. Why does it look large as it goes away? I can't tell you. I don't, and that's okay. I'm not here to say I have all the answers. In fact, that's the reinvigorating aspect to this conversation, is that we get to talk about things that we thought were already established. Now the conversation is being had. If you're on that flat end, we are talking about all of this and discussing what it could or could not be. How will we know without proper experimentation, proper funding?
That is so funny.
And then the release of the lie. That's another big deal.
Pour water into a cup, it becomes the cup. Pour water into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Pour water onto a ball, it falls off.
Come right here. This my friend made this one. About 71% of the Earth's surface is water, and 29% is land. And water always seeks to be level, no matter what container it's in. So what the F is curving? Think about it. Water, I don't care if you put it into a bathtub, a pool, a river, it doesn't matter. The underneath the water surface can be all kinds of different shapes. The top of that water is going to be flat. If 71% of the Earth's surface is water, and water to us always looks flat, if you're not using their images, if we see it always as flat, then the water is the one that's giving us a clue. And a matter of fact, after I went flat, I changed the way I felt about water forever. Because we all kind of think we're quasi-educated in the wake. Oh, we're all elemental. We all get a little new agey on our journey, some of us. We think about the elements, right? Well, we think we know water. You don't know water until you realize the property of water and that it is flat. Water has been your best friend this whole time. We've been ignoring it. My opinion. Yeah.
See, I've always thought of water more as like as far as like the motion of water, almost as like a pressure difference, like a pressure variance. And so, like in terms of, I mean, going back to mass and like pressure and stuff like that, like it's always seemed to be like the water stays level because it's in a basin that is going to let it stay. But it does kind of raise the question that is that if that basin curves at the end, it's got to be more than a pressure differential holding it in, unless it's just a matter of scale. But
that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure. And they only say it's, for our atmospherics, I think it's like 12.2 pounds of...
I think it's 14 and a half.
14 and a half?
Yeah. I know that from
that's not enough
turboed cars.
That's right. I should be asking you. And that's not enough pressure to keep that amount of mass attached to a ball, especially when the seagull is allowed to fly where it wants to at the bottom of the ball. The reason they only gave gravity is to explain all the bullshit that's going on the bottom of the ball. That's why they had to bring in gravity, is to improve on their model. And that's a thing they do. It's a living organism. They're going to give you gravitational waves. They're going to give you quarks. They're going to give you black fluid, dark matter. They're going to do whatever they want to build on this model that you're already just willing to take, without observing what natural science is trying to show you. That's my message, mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Something I'm trying to look up right now, since we're kind of still on the subject still, is just so everybody knows, since a lot of people talk about airline, people on airplanes and stuff like that, and it's funny because there are some pilots who fly for, big corporations, whether it's Delta, whether it's U.S. Airways, Southwest, but they are flat earthers. And one of the reasons why they are is because they are actually able to see the sun and the moon at the same time in the sky like that, just like on the diagram we were showing. Do you know the name of that video where it shows that? I'm trying to find it right now.
I don't. And wait, that one that's 132 right there?
I think that's, it looks...
That's one of them. There's actually two. And in fact, there's the other one. If you've ever watched the other video where the rocket goes up real quick and hits something and stops moving. Anyway, but
I think...
All right.
And this may be one. Let's see if we go to pan right.
Even showing this, I'm pretty sure, it doesn't happen all the time, but there are times where you can observe that even just, standing on the ground. You look up it's daytime and the moon is out and the sun is out.
Yeah. I
so this would, for them to be so close like that, like it's showing in this, I'm thinking this would be like summertime. You know what I mean? In terms of our seasons.
Interesting. Interesting.
So
there is a pilot who is a complete flat earther. Most of the people in society, you're bumping up with flat earthers and you don't even know it. Like I said earlier, one of the smartest guys I know, a multi-million-dollar company that he met, he's executive vice president, perfect SAT score, multiple Ivy League accomplishments, and taught as a professor in Germany. And he is flat. And it doesn't take... the funny thing. The thing of this is that it's right under your nose and you don't know it. That's why this is exploding exponentially. We didn't talk about how popular it's becoming, but this is because it is now in vogue to be aware. Okay, people are getting to that point where nothing is off limits to their awareness level. And yes, we have people who are living professional lives who are definitely flat, and that's an issue.
And then also, wouldn't I don't know what this. I've never heard the argument either, but like thinking about being on a globe. I mean, if you were on one, this was I wish we had a pilot on, but it would be cool to know. But if the plane's flying, are they flying just like this? I kind of feel like they're flying like this, or else they'd have to like tilt the nose down ever so slightly,
sure.
Probably every 5 minutes.
Sure. Every 69 miles, there's a degree, and then at 500 miles an hour, they should be tipping their nose down often. Now, obviously, no one's flying in a manual state. It's mostly autopilot, and even the gyroscope is revealing to them that they're not actually dipping their nose. It's actually, one of them described it as they're go forward. They're just flying forward, and they have their noses should be at 3 degrees high. That's all they're doing. They're pushing forward at 3 degrees high. When it's time to land, they just maneuver down and boom. The real issue, the real discrepancy with flight and airline pilots, this goes back to the beginning of the conversation when we talked about Coriolis effect and spin. If we were traveling at 1,000 miles an hour, as these planes are coming down from flight onto the ground, they should be calibrating with an object that's actually moving at 1,000 miles an hour. We've got planes flying in, landing at any direction. It doesn't matter. No one gives a shit. No one's looking at this. The planes just fall, and that's the end of story. No one's actually looking at the fact that these planes should be, quote unquote, making the most amazing landing attempts ever. Landing on an object that's spinning at 1,049 miles per hour, assuming equator. Then this is really some magical flying techniques here, right? Okay, but that's not the case. These, even on impact, as the wheels of those planes touch down on the earth, which should be spinning, there should be instant energy transference between that object that's in motion and the other object that's in motion, and whatever speed discrepancies that are in between the two. But these things don't happen. And this is another red flag that you'll see in really eloquent flat earth discussion. Not here with me. I'm not describing this talking point well at all. But it is there once you dissect this far enough.
But what about and I don't even know what they would call it, if it's called centrifugal force or what the name of it is. But what if, like, for instance, like I used to ride in the back of, like in Arizona, like we just ride in the back of trucks all the time. We didn't give a shit. So when you're back there and it's going like, 80 miles an hour, because that's happened before. I was in the back of a truck going 80 miles an hour. My dumb ass actually tested this. I kind of jumped up a little and came back down. And I didn't move. You think if I would have jumped up really high, I just would have flown off. I mean, and I think that's kind of true, like in movies, like where you see people jumping from train to train. Like, if you're going at that speed already and you're jumping up, you're kind of still going with that, right? Aren't you?
With inertia, an object in motion stays in motion.
Yeah.
I would assume, based on like air resistance and stuff like that, there is going to be some drop off and slow down, based on aerodynamics, just because it all depends on how fast you're moving through the air. But yeah, like that, if you're already moving at a rate of like 80 miles an hour, then your body's moving at that rate. You may not feel that you're moving at 80 miles an hour, but you are. And so when you jump, you're still moving at 80 miles an hour, same with that truck, which is why you jump and then you land back down.
Which is where I'm getting confused, because if you put that on a larger scale, and let's say, for instance, you're shooting a rocket into space, going to the moon, I'm thinking to myself, if I'm like say for instance, there's this Earth, or actually if you can show it here, or the Earth's right there, right? Actually, maybe your mic. So if the Earth is right here, right, and then here's the moon, when is it that inertia no longer takes effect, or the atmosphere no longer takes effect? Because say the rocket's coming here, and we're traveling how fast? How fast are we traveling through the universe, like the Earth itself? It's 16,000. I think it's 16,000 miles. I'm pretty sure, but I'm.
No.
It's faster.
The Earth's going 1,049 miles an hour on its axis at the equator. Around the sun, we're going 67,000 miles per hour.
So we're moving 67,000 miles per hour.
You bet your ass. However,
they say
not only that, we're going to corkscrew this more. Not only are we spinning around the sun, we're going through space-time at 500 million miles an hour. Some ridiculous number, right?
So
I don't feel any of that.
If I was a rocket ship coming off here, going to the moon's up here, wouldn't there become a point where it's like, oh fuck, there goes the whole fucking ship, gone, boom, it just flew 5 million miles, like.
Here. So if we're looking at a heliocentric model and how that works, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, because you've probably done a lot of look into this. So essentially, if you think about it like that, our first trip into space is to try and establish an orbit around the Earth. So you're still going on the reference of how fast the Earth is going around. You're trying to break out of the gravitational pull of the Earth. So you're not taking fucked, right? No, you're not worried about how fast the Earth is turning around the sun. You're worried about how fast you're going in relation to the Earth still. Because all you're trying to do is get high enough out of the gravitational pull to where it's not pulling you back down, but you're not flying away and you're not escaping the gravitational pull. It's only once you've achieved that can you then do your transfer to create a ellipse, like a loose. Basically, you have to. It's all working in circles or ovals, like ellipses. So you basically push from your proapsis or your oapsis, and you burn prograde to push it out or retrograde to pull it back in, and you have to expand the point out until you're in an ellipse that puts you out closer to the moon. And then the idea is that the moon's gravitational pull gets you close enough so you can then burn retrograde usually to slow yourself down once you're there. In theory, you could probably do it without all the help of gravity, but it takes a lot more fuel. And if we're assuming that they're actually going up there and doing all of that, fuel is a big issue. Like, that's the problem. Getting to space is the issue, is getting all your stuff up there.
They left the moon in the 60s in a capsule and rocketed their asses back to Earth with basically fuel for a fucking tiny little Honda. Okay, I'm sorry. But that discrepancy is a beast of its own. The faking of the moon landing part is if you're interested enough in flat Earth to want to get to that point, you should start with the moon landing hoax. If you can dissect that material, take back that I call it nationalism, nationalism. Mm-hmm. That nationalistic pride of space venture, that's where they get you. They got us in our hearts because of this faked moon mission, which makes us think it's all possible. Here, the other thing though about the ellipsoid and the Earth going around the sun, it's not exactly. It's not in the heliocentric model. It's not a perfect circle around the sun. It's an ellipsoid. And the funny thing about this, when I was researching it, in that ellipsoid, mind you, okay, so the sun, and here we are, ellipsoid, right? Elongated, right? Mm-hmm. Which one is winter and which one is summer? When we're out here, is it summer?
The farther one is actually summer, isn't it?
Isn't that some bullshit?
Yeah,
Isn't that some bullshit? You're telling me my common sense in the middle of Sacramento heat wave, you're telling me I'm further from the sun than I am during winter when I'm closer, just because I might be tilted on my axis? I'm sorry, but I do not rock with that anymore.
That's a good point too. Yeah.
Well, though, going into that though, like, how does it jive with like the extremely extended daytime hours you see in like closer to the poles, like the North Pole and South Pole?
Well, yeah, okay. So you're talking about extended daylight. But that's because, like I described, extended daylight. The reason we're doing extended daylight is because our sun is now localized. It's in our localized sector, Tropic of Cancer, if you will.
Yeah.
Right? So we're getting those long-ass days. and short nights because it's only whoop and it's right back here to like dusky.
Yeah.
Excuse me, dawn, and then it's just. But however, when it's making a concentric ring around the North Pole and it's way out here, this is when. Excuse me.
It's going to be nighttime the whole time.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I mean, that answers the question on a planar level.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it the way it is on a heliocentric model? You're going to find ass backwards explanations like we just got done saying. The ellipsoid, it's summer when it's furthest from the sun. It's winter when it's closest to the sun. What we're talking about is temperature difference. Obviously, it needs to be mentioned, but there's a discrepancy with that. Let me make one other observation. The sun comes up in the morning. It's cool. I'm talking about the heat. I'm talking about summertime. The sun comes up. It's 6 a.m. Oh, it's nice. You know it's going to be a hot day, but it's still cool enough. I feel I can get my workout in. I can do what I need to do. But then by high noon, get your ass to safety because it's going to be hot as balls, right? Mm-hmm. Tell me, why should I have a difference in temperature so extravagant from 93 million miles away? What's the difference from when the sun's coming up to when it's right here in the heliocentric model? We're only talking about maybe a few 100,000 miles difference in the distance from the sun to where we are. In this
Does science say anything about the atmosphere with that?
I think isn't that their explanation?
Of course it would.
Yeah, so this is the atmosphere and how the sun's refracting the light back. And...
Of course it would. Okay, but like I said, I don't have to follow that when I know that there's a curvature discrepancy. Mm-hmm. That's when it gets really, really harsh and analytical. So
I don't like the fact that they know the temperature of the sun too. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I will say I do kind of wonder about that one, how they got that. Like,
oh, we got a fucking sun-proof thermometer. We fucking
not only that. Why are they making it look like a hot burning ball of furnace in the vacuum of space? There's no oxygen. How do we even have I know it's not combustion if we were to look at it from the helio model perspective, but think about it, layman's terms. You're talking about a burning ball of gas in a vacuum of space. Where the fuck? No. Where's the oxygen? Where's the feeding? What's feeding that combustion chamber?
Isn't it continuous energy though? Like it's continuously.
All I'm saying in layman's terms.
Mm-hmm.
In layman's terms.
Got it.
We don't put it. Yeah, that's why it would be. In fact, it could be breathing off this atmospheric, which is creating atmospherics for our local sector.
I think that's the tough part. Is that like we can't really go up there and see what's actually
there. It is.
Like, what's it really made out of?
There it is. Yeah. The only real thing we can do as people is venture south, push into that southern pole point to see how far we can go. From a humanitarian space. That's why I say, most flat earthers are done. Deep space is out. Deep plane is in. We don't care about going up. We care about going out now. You follow?
But why can't we go out?
Yeah.
Well, that's because of the Antarctic Treaty. We've got... Yeah, why can't we go out? Great question. They would have you think that the Antarctic Treaty, which is the longest standing treaty in human history... Most treaties don't last this long. This one is called the Antarctic Treaty. And they just renewed it recently in October of 16, I believe. They proclaim that they want to save the Chilean sea bass and fish and all the other horse shit that you'll take because you don't care. That you live on a ball, they'll tell you what it is, so you'll believe it. But really, what's happening is this is barn control. If you're testing the barn and you want to touch the see the shape of Antarctica, see how it is? That's the ice wall shape. You follow me? Now imagine the continents within that shape. Never mind that it's ice. Don't worry about that. Look at the outline. That might actually be the ice wall shape that is encompassing us. So see how it's not a perfect circle, but it's like it has imperfections. This is what we think may be secrets in plain sight and the perimeter that's...
So is what we're thinking is that...
You follow me?
No, I saw something freaky.
Is what we're saying is that we're inside of it? Like the outer perimeter is like the,
Bro,
what the edge shape.
The
would be?
outer
No,
perimeter
dude.
can be dark glacial expanse.
Oh, man, I
that's
cannot
not
believe I just saw
touched
that.
by the sun.
Yeah.
It can be dark, cold
Bro.
as fuck, and you may venture long enough to get to another Earth pond.
Nah.
That's what
Nah.
this conversation
But
Hold
now,
on.
so I'm guessing
thing,
we're
hold on.
we're going on it because the Antarctic Treaty stops a lot of the exploration there.
Oh, absolutely.
But like, aren't there, like, I'm pretty sure there's like like you could take tourism flights over
Sure.
it. There's people who've circumvented it.
Never
Allegedly.
No. So what happens with those alleged claims is they say they're going to the South Pole and that Earth's a ball. What you get is people who go touch the point and come back the same direction. We aren't getting full north-south circumnavigation. North-south circumnavigation is the tipping point for this entire conversation. I have looked at material where people claim that that's what they've done. I do not in any way, shape, or form believe it, because again, it has to be military sanctioned. It has to be funded by the military. It has to be approved. There is a treaty there that will not allow regular people to go into your Antarctic regions for scientific reasons. Corporations aren't even allowed to go in there because once they realize how much resources are out there,
I gotta show
open it up wide open.
I gotta show something because you were talking about kind of just what I saw spooked me. I don't know if you guys have a diagram for this, but this is, hold on. When I show you this right now, when we were looking at it, you said something interesting. You were talking about, when we look at this, you were talking about what if that's the ring, right? You were like talking about those countries being around Antarctica. Like, do you see that off to the left? That fucking tail. It looks like a tail, right?
Yeah.
Bro, why the fuck does that look like the bottom of South America?
Well, it's close to the bottom of South America, or at least Antarctica is.
But what if you cut that piece and put that together? Look at the other wider regions. Like, what if those are different parts of different continents, and they just slam them together, and then that's what the outer rim looks like in terms of what we're inside of.
Right.
So, like,
It's anyone's guess, bro. Right now.
Well, and even that's what's tough too, because even like they've got that theory of Pangea being like everything was one continent at one point a long
this
time
bitch
ago.
don't know about
and broke up.
Pangea. But like, yeah, like, bro, South America. They just slam the continents together, and like, this is what it's gonna look like. Like,
yeah.
what the? Dude,
Well, it's
what?
all art. It is all artistry. Those who are creating the history for us, whether it's our ancestors drawing on caves, it doesn't matter.
Right
Human
there,
nature
that piece
is going to use art to convince the masses of history and where we're going. Art on the dollar bill, art on caves walls, art in the Smithsonian. It doesn't matter. Art is it will sway the direction of humanity if used under whatever power structure it's under. And art, globe Earth art, a $50 million a day industry is creating a ball Earth schism.
So if you look, like, that could kind of be like South America, and like the bottom of Africa could kind of fit in there.
Yeah.
No,
But what
I
if
see
this-
you. I follow you.
That was weird. No, when you brought that up, I didn't even like. Whoa, that's just weird. Just giving kind of chills. Huh. Weird. Anyways, but I don't know. So there's a lot of things that just, like I said again, that just make you go, why or why don't they just change their numbers or their measurements? Like, they're so off. Like, when it comes to these whole 27,000 miles that we're traveling, like, just don't say that shit. Like, bro, like, that doesn't make sense, or, you know what I mean? Like, maybe it does, and there's just some weird reason we can't understand it because of all the things that they're creating, all the things that they're engineering, with things that supposedly we're sending into the sky. I mean, are we really sending these satellites up there? Like, what's going on with that?
Yeah. I believe that we are sending props that can gather data. They're operating on helium. There is ample suspicion that they're using a protocol which lifts up small satellites into the sky using helium balloons, and they're able to travel.
So you believe that the satellites are real? Okay, well, some planets.
Oh yeah, no,
okay,
there's no, satellites are not real the way that you've been told. That's true. I stand with the flat earthers. You're not going to get, for one, the metallurgy the metals on those satellites wouldn't withstand the temperatures that are in some of the ionosphere distances. At a certain height elevation, they'd melt. Okay,
is that what that
That's
is?
what you need to realize too. Is the metallurgy, or is a discrepancy between the metal, the burning level, and the distances.
Well, now, does in the vacuum, assuming it's in space, in a vacuum, does that limit the heat transfer between things because it's a vacuum? I mean, there's nothing in it.
So are the vibrations of the molecules even going to disperse because the vacuum? I don't know. Like I said, layman's terms. First of all, layman's terms, you go to Google satellites in space, every one of them is a CGI. You don't even have physical photographic confirmation of satellites in the sky. You would think that your pride in your science and your space exploration, you would get photos. You ain't got shit. You got high-level CGI, that's it. Case closed. Right. Now, do you have, in some of these boxes, these images you're seeing, I just suspect they're small, they're attached to large helium balloons, and they can float very high up, and they do gather data. Yeah, there is a program for that. And I'll tell you, a C-130 or can catch those on the way down and get them, and they sometimes gather them, I believe, in Antarctica. There's tons of videos of them releasing them in Antarctica as well. You will have to dig into this satellite subject matter in order to really realize that there is no geostationary orbit. That's a lie. It's just further down you go.
Well, now, if that's the case, like, at what level do you think people are in on this? And I say that just because, like, working for a telecommunications company, like, we took part in the 60s with, like, the first communications satellite launch. I've got family members that work for companies that produce satellites that are aerospace engineers.
Yep.
So, I mean, I would assume that it would have to be, I mean, obviously they're building something, whether or not it's actually ending up doing what they think it's going to do.
Of course. Of course. And that's a perfect way of saying it. Like I said, the people can build anything they want in a hangar and say they're a part of the space agency, but they're not the ones that are actually observing the data. I'm sorry, they don't have eyes on the ground of these satellites. So let me backtrack for a second here. There's a guy. His name's Planet Veritas. He's a he is a content creator for Flat Earth. He may have not be making anything recently, but this guy, he would call Hubble. He called Hubble and spoke to the director of operations for over 45 minutes, and he got him into a conversation that he was not aware of. The Hubble space telemetry person. He made him confess, or he brought it into this guy's awareness. He was saying, "Hey, I get it. You're director of Hubble. Not taking that away from you. Have you seen Hubble surface to air? Have you seen it from the ground? Have you had eyes on it? Or are you just looking at the computers, the data, the monitors?" And this guy realized, probably after the phone call, holy shit, I've been behind the helm of the Hubble space program. He talked to him. I've listened to it numerous times. But he talks to this guy at length, and this is a very smart dude, Planet Veritas guy. But he hook, line, and sinker. They don't even know that it's up there. They see it on the data. That data tells them it's up there. They don't know what's up there. They never see it. And a matter of fact, the Hubble doesn't even have the mini micro booster rockets that keep it in that microgravity elevation. The Hubble should have fell to the ground already, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay? Because of its weight and because of even if it's microgravity, it has to be in microgravity. If it were in the vacuum of space, they'd have no control over it. It'd be gone. So what they're trying to say is that they're keeping it in a very, very, very confined state of microgravity to keep the orbit around Earth to a point where they're able to get the data and use this telescope forever. But they're not. They're not.
So you think these rockets are just going kind of like on these pictures show?
Yes, they're falling into the Bermuda Triangle. That's why they made the Bermuda Triangle a thing of mysticism and UFOs and bullshit. But no, that the real purpose is because that's their space junkyard. Parabolic curve. Anytime you see that, that's called a parabolic curve. If you see that curve go 1 degree descend to the ground, that means the object's falling. In fact, a true space program would be shooting rockets straight up.
Jesus, that picture on the
Straight
bottom
up.
left, that looks like a.
Oh, that's terrible.
That looks like a.
It's terrible.
Well, that one on the bottom left, what's in the upper corner? That's what I want to know.
That little thing there?
Yeah. Like,
I don't know.
Because, I mean, like, in theory, you could say, well, that's a stage. Like, that's the second stage of the rocket. But, yeah, it's any... Well, because a rocket wouldn't be going that low again. It would be going up and then, again, in a heliocentric world.
Well, you know, hey...
It'd be going up and trying to...
Everything has to be seen with new eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I used to look at this and say, no, they're leaving the atmosphere. They have to bend that way to leave. They don't need to go straight up because they're able to skirt out of the atmosphere by shooting off in a parabolic curve. I used to tell myself the same shit. Okay? But, again, the fact that I know that there is the scientific evidence that shows that we're not even spinning tells me that parabolic curve isn't to account for leaving an atmosphere now.
Well, now,
okay,
how do we explain the International Space Station in regards to, like, how you can, like, they've got the little tracker and you can see it moving in the sky, like, like what is it then? Like, what's up there floating that we're seeing?
Then honestly, if we want to get creative on how they're pulling off the deception, yes, there are websites that tell you exactly what's flying through the sky, when and where. What you could be seeing is a decoy. I don't even know. I'm not here to tell you exactly how they're faking this shit because it's a $50 million a day protocol. I'm not even going to begin to tell you. However, there's discrepancies in their images. They wrote sex in the clouds back in 2015. I think someone is behind the scenes trying to send clues. Yeah, sex in the clouds. It's in this book as well. I might be able to grab it quickly. Let me also mention something else as I do this. Someone will say, in 1972, we took a photo, an actual photo of the Earth from space back in the Apollo 17 mission in 72. Photo, not composite image. Everything we get now is images based on low-hanging satellites that build a model. This supposedly was an image of the photo out of the capsule of Earth. It finally was discovered that the discrepancy has to do, if you go to dateandtime.com, dateandtime.com says that more surface area of the Earth was actually exposed to sunlight during the time of the photo of the Apollo 17 1972 image. The image that you see that's supposedly full ball in space looks like this, and they always show you this. But if you research dateandtime.com, we see all of this exposed terra firma, which has light being cast upon it. Why isn't that included? Why isn't that included in our space mission image? You see? You follow me? You follow? Date and time.
Jesus, it's a picture. They literally just cut the picture.
They're fucking with you. They're fucking with you guys. And I'm sorry to say it so abruptly, but it's because I care.
It's the same. Look at that.
See? Where is all the light cascading on upper Western Asia, Europe, parts of South Africa, and a little tip of South America, Australia?
So what are we seeing up here? What's this? Like, because that's
the edge of Africa. That whole continent is Africa. Yep. I remember that map. It was on our book, our 6th grade fucking social studies book.
How is that the edge of Africa? What's that? Like, look. Like, because you see that's like jutting out.
That's Sudan, and that's like, that's that whole area. Oh, watch, I'll go back to the other one.
This book.
It's that top right.
Oh, that.
See it? Right there. I'll put my finger right on it.
Yeah, so that's water.
It's crazy, but that's a picture where you're led to believe.
So that's land. Okay, I see. Yeah, so that's Africa right there. And that's Sudan. Okay.
They're saying that's the hemisphere. And if they're saying, and this is a rare image because it's full ball. It's rare to see a full lit hemisphere. If you're trying to pull that one. Anyway, you know what? You look far enough into this, all the talking points are there. I'm not the only one who's able to discuss all of the discrepancies, but together, as the human race, we're pulling our head out of our asses and we're looking at all the talking points. And so hey, so there's that. I gotta take a pee break soon here, but
let's see here. I actually want to pull up. What's the station right now? Space station.
The International Space Station.
International.
I think I'm dry.
Oh, we're just in luck. They're live.
Live now?
Oh, look at all those stars in the background. Yeah, here we are live with the ISS fakery. This is the champion to the ball Earth confirmation. What I suspect we're experiencing here is obviously trickery, but there is a confirmed space lab in Russia. It's a very big pool of water. And they keep the ISS mock pods, if you will, clones or duplicates of the pods underwater. And this is how astronauts are training for quote unquote space missions. They're underwater filming these segments.
And I admit, when we watch these, we do see air bubbles come up. Now, we don't know if that's maybe that in space. There's air bubbles.
Well,
in space, no, space has really good music too. Hold on, wait.
If everything they say is true about it, I think different bubbles, like because air, like the air we think that we're breathing, like it's not 100% oxygen, Tony. So different gases may form bubbles in space.
I love this.
Assuming it's what they say. You know?
That's a fair statement. I'm not.
I think what's weird though is like it's even. I mean, they won't even lie and say that they don't train in water because that's like they do train in water to,
of course,
try and prepare.
Of course, dealing with a vacuum.
Oh, hey guy, hey!
Not sure it's so much bubbles in space with the vacuum aspect of it all. When confronted with the bubbles in space, the actual astronaut who's been there states
oh,
that
the fuck is to the right over there.
I saw a little something.
Did you see that shit? That looked like Independence Day. What the fuck? No. Hold on.
Now, Tony, are you able to look up where it is floating over right now?
Oh, they show you. They used to. Hold on. They used to show like the same map you were showing earlier, and they would show where it was at on that map.
So,
I mean, it looks
for
like
instance,
it's kind of over the ocean, so it probably wouldn't.
For instance, most people would in defense of this observation, we're in geosynchronous orbit here. But look at this. Does that look like an object that's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour? Follow me here.
No.
Where's my spin? If you were to look at the older videos of the Mercury missions where we're just trying to go around, you see much more synthetic spin. They don't bother to spin much anymore. It's much slower. And supposedly this thing is traveling at 17,000 miles an hour, like a few times the speed of a bullet.
I think what's tough is that if we're not able to see stars, so if all we're able to see is the space station and the Earth, if they're both moving at a close to relative speed, we're attached to the space station right now. So it's kind of like, again, like if you're driving in a car, if you're both going 80 miles an hour and you look next to each other, you appear to be going stationary.
Okay. And that's what I kind of pressed. That's what I said before I made that talking point.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: as we see the globe spin on the table here,
yeah,
it's 1,040. It's 1,039 miles per hour at the equator, and slower as you ascend or descend. What do we see here? I'm just saying it doesn't at all represent what the heliocentric model proposes.
Yeah.
Now. Is it because of technology or whatever the case may be, assuming this is real? I can't explain that away. Another thing, 90% of the time, you're just going to see this water with cloud overlay thing. Okay? A lot of it has become this now. There's no land massing. They don't bother with the definition any longer. It's all becoming washed over with assumption.
That was where I was hoping we could see where it was, but over the ocean, You're right. It could be anywhere.
All the time, dude. half the time, more than half the time, you're going to see it like this, over the ocean, obscure, random spots. And the kicker, the real kicker, is we don't see the Earth spinning 24/7, 365 on a live feed from a full ball for full spin perspective. It's the ISS live feeds are always in increments. They'll go gray soon. They'll do this thing where you think it's live, but it'll stop the live feed and go gray, and they'll recalibrate or say that the sun's going around, or they'll give you something. But it's because they can't show you for a fact with video that you're spinning. They won't do it. Because if they did, they'd have to show the proper cloud formation. We would see that there's no storms over Australia. There's no chemtrails over California. It would all go out the window. People would see it and go, "Holy shit, that's not what I'm seeing." So there's discrepancy with that. No, there is no 24/7, 365 full ball, full spin. It's 2018, and you get 50 and we pay them $50 million a day, and you don't have the basic science. You don't have there's the sex right there in the clouds. I think this is a code. I think that's a message. This happened. This is a 2015 NASA photo, but I think they're trying to release. I think Flat Earth has been released, honestly. And this is one of the telltale clues that they put in there. Now, why is it sex in the clouds? Why does this even matter? Is this even pertinent? Yes, it is. Why is it pertinent? It's pertinent because Disney is in bed with NASA to the nth degree. Disney has made a ton of space propaganda.
The Lion King connection.
There you go. Yeah. And it
looks like
it's all Masonic. It's all Masonry. Yeah. They love their phallic symbol, cock and balls, and the whole 9 yards, bro. This is sex. This is sex symbolism. So there's that. Okay. Again, someone waking up to this topic isn't gonna want to go as deep as understanding that Walt Disney is a master Mason. And Masonic and usury and Zionistic influences that control the world. If you're not ready to look at that, well, okay, hey, we're all in different stages, and that's fair. So take it for what you will.
That's another thing, too, is the multiple clouds in globe pictures. Hopefully it'll actually show.
Oh, yeah, the cut and paste. Yeah. There's your science.
Well, it's really hard to make individual clouds that cover the whole thing. It takes a lot of time in Photoshop.
No, there is one there.
Dude, you're supposed to be a ball proponent here, right? No, I'm just playing. That's good. You've been good. No, I know. And that's another thing that pissed me off. I was like, hold on, dude. Like, I'm supposed to, like, be for the globe. These flat earthers are calling it out, saying that these clouds are copied and pasted. I mean, that's not a real ball Earth image at that point. If you do that to me,
I think it really is tough because even because it's not like they explain the reasons for the discrepancies until you call them out for the discrepancies, and then it's like, okay, well at that point, like, well now I don't know if I can trust you. Like your credibility is completely gone.
Thank you. Enough of these discrepancies. I honestly, Kyle, I was over my toilet, almost gagging. With the level of deception that I realized was kind of upon me. Because like I said, we all hold the earth with revelry. If you're a red pilling station, if you boil it down, you're doing your red pill shit because you love earth, you love reality, you love truth. Period. So if they're lying about this, we got a big deal. And this is coming. There is no putting this back in the bag. I'm never going back to the ball. Okay? So we see these minor discrepancies. Like another friend of mine, another person said in the Flat Earth, Dan Pratt, he goes, there is enough ample, reasonable suspicion to throw it all out at this point, depending on how.
Here we can see clear example.
Yeah, I think this is the one, and it's just like it's crazy because
that we have always been told we live on. But as the savvy internet sleuths out, if you take a closer look, things start to take a somewhat sinister turn. Look closely at the repeating cloud pattern. Here we can see clear examples that the photo...
Damn, got him. Look at those. look at those, they're the same. Like, it's almost like they're just like, oh, fuck it, dude, just copy and paste when you make this picture, bro. Hurry. We got to turn this in by fucking 12. You know what I mean? Like, look at that shit. Like, that's totally, they just grabbed a bunch of clouds and then made it. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, a lot of the time the arguments they make, at least with older pictures, are supposed to be that the cameras weren't high enough quality, or like you were saying, they'll have multiple satellites that are taking tons of different pictures, and then they're combining them into one big picture. But it, like I said earlier, man, like they're not upfront with that fact that it, regardless if some of it is real imagery, there still is some of that picture that it's a doctored image.
Absolutely.
You know, and we think about it like it wouldn't hold up in a court case because it's been doctored. And so I mean, I guess the idea is supposed to be that it makes the masses happy, it makes them feel good. But at the end of the day, like I said earlier, when you get called out on it, then it's been, well, you know, I doctored it because of this. Regardless how relevant your reason was, now your credibility's shot. And then it's like, okay, well, what else were you lying about?
Right. That's crazy because now it's at a point where it's like, I mean, so we have to assume that there is something being hidden. I mean, what's the reason why? Why would they hide, like, you know?
Yeah, I think that's the big question, really, is why.
No, I mean, it is such a for anyone who's new to this topic and is actually listening to this for the first time, I'm still with you on the inside on why, what's going on here. Mind you, we happen, our existence here is happenstance. We happen to just be alive during this period. Okay? That, coupled with the fact that we realize that this is a lie, it should tell us immediately two things. They're hiding more land, which we kind of tried to discuss a little bit in this topic.
Some more resources, or hoarding their resources.
They're resource hiding. They're hiding more land. And the other thing, depending on who you are, is they could be hiding God. Okay? Big Bang is what we're talking about here with heliocentrism. We're talking about something that magically Big Bang boomed into somethingness from nothingness, which is a fairy tale, which is Kabbalah. If you go into Jewish Kabbalah, it's Kabbalah, period. Creation, I don't know where it came in like a tumbleweed in the night. Honestly, I wasn't even ready for it either. But creation just now took a major leap in winning this argument for whatever reason. I'm not even one of the Christian flat earthers who is really, really tied into Christ and flat earth. There are some good people out there that I associate with who I actually genuinely love. Some great people who are Christian flat earthers, but I'm still putting my hands up and saying there's a creator element going on. I just can't put my finger on any of this because this is a major mindfuck. Okay? Seriously. If we're going to level with each other here, we're talking about the fact that Earth is flat and possibly infinite. Okay? And it created. It's a realm. And I don't know. Now I'm at a point where I don't know a damn thing, but I know what it's not. Okay?
No, and I mean, and going back to the Christian thought, I'm not religious at all or Christian in any sense. But what's interesting is enough when you understand when you read the Bible or you have a sort of understanding. Let's just say you were to sit down and say, I want to understand Lucifer. I want to understand what he was trying to do. And if you were to trick people and you were to come up with something to just make them forget about, you know, things that were written in the Bible and things like that, you would deceive them. And to deceive them, it would be easy. Well, how can I deceive them? Well, hold on, there's a moon there, and then there's these planets. They're going to see those and assume it's round. So using that, I will let them see, or I will show them an equation that will make them find out that there's a universe. And in this universe, it's infinite. And in this infinite universe that's so big and so vast, they are just this little speck of dust of nothingness. And if I can just make them realize that there's just all these other possibilities and that we're just this tiny speck, then I've won. You know what I mean?
Right.
Then I've actually created this whole illusion, you know. And I'm just talking about the Christian aspect of it. I'm just saying if you believe in God. I don't believe in that, but I'm just saying that if you're a Christian, that should be one of your...
Even, I mean, like, honestly, though, I find it interesting that that's the endless possibilities of different like lands that we could expand into is one of the positive points, because I personally feel like space to an extent represents that as well.
Yes, sir,
But-
buddy. Look at your shirt, dude. Star Wars.
But at the same time, also going into like, you know, bringing up biblical and like Lucifer and that stuff, like even in the Bible it talks about him like he was the falling star, like being cast down, you know. And so I don't know, like if you buy into that, you know, like that could be part of it too, as far as like, you know, there being a heaven. I mean, there's also like the older myths of like Tower of Babel,
Yes.
where like they tried to build it to get too
Yes.
high, and then God scattered the languages so mankind couldn't dream of getting that close again.
Get too high to get to space, or get too high to see that it was flat?
Well,
No, it's to get too high to get on the same level as God. At least that's
exactly.
that's what it was written as.
Right.
But you know, it's, I don't know. I feel like there's so many different things that you could attribute to it.
Yeah.
But even like, what's interesting enough is like with you saying, you know, like Satan, he can make it to where like, okay, so if we seem like we're this little speck in the universe, and like they see the sun and the moon, but
They'll think
most
that we're
earlier
thinking-
religions like saw the sun as a deity, like had the moon as a deity.
Yes.
Like there were multiple religions before Christianity. Like Christianity just happens to be the one that stuck the most, like
Right.
that spread the farthest.
Right.
You know, so it's just, I don't know. That's kind of interesting, like how it all ties in.
Well, it's not the only one. I mean, there's Christianity, but there's also Buddhism, the Vedic scripts, the Bhagavad Gita. They describe a flat plane. It's called Bhumandala. It's very long, billions of miles big. Resting on the turtle, and then the elephants are on the corners.
I've seen that.
Yes,
What's it called? Wait, hold on, I
the
wanna
Vedic
explore that
script.
one.
Mount Meru is in the middle. That would maybe be.
What's the name of that photo? With the turtle?
I don't know.
There's a ton you could probably look up.
You could try Vedic Bhumandala or Vedic Flat Earth. So there is other cosmogonies that deal with the planar realm. Native Americans, Buddhists, those were flat Earth as well. The reason why things just naturally went to this ball Earth bullshit is because of the crusading of the Jesuit order and the influences that they did. They changed all these religions to make them ball Earth anyway. That's why a lot of the sun worship, the fact that people are worshiping the sun, is because they're trying to make the sun the centric element of it as we revolve around it, which is but again, it's not just Christian, Egyptians, Mayans. They were all on the flat.
Yeah.
So it's whatever for anyone. If you're on a spiritual journey, chances are the root of your religious affiliation was mostly flat at that time of inception.
Well, I think what's interesting to me about it too is just the extent that just if you look at like from the Christianity standpoint at least, and possibly other organized religion. I haven't looked into a lot of the other ones as far as that, but like for a long time, religion was the form of social control. Like now it's, I mean, to an extent it still is. It loses its grasp more and
This one
more
right here?
as time goes by. Yeah, that's it. But but back in the day, 500-600 years ago, where this was being all spread to the masses as this is what it is and it's around Earth, religion really was the form of social control. Like that's how they kept power and maintained it, and like whether or not they're in on some nefarious plot of the world is really flat and they're just tricking us to think it's round, like you can't really argue that fact that it was used as a form of control.
Absolutely.
Feeding the elephants.
It's a lot of autopilot. Humanity is in a state of amnesia. It doesn't matter the shape of the Earth argument at this point. If we're discussing humanity, we don't know us anymore. We are in a state of amnesia in the year 2018, period. Everything is convoluted. Too much war and bloodshed has been spilled. Now, who knows? So we have amnesia. We don't even know if Atlantis was real. We've got tons of megalithic sites which express high technology. There's too much convoluted evidence everywhere to even begin to piece it all together anymore, which is why I don't really do that. I don't stay up trying to solve the mystery of everything anymore. You know, the theory of everything.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that much anymore.
But even with the theory of everything being said, let's say like today, like right now, fucking, we just found out, boom, they just released it. Earth is flat, and this is the reason why. What happens? Like, what happens after that? Like, what governments would fall, or what corporations would lose out, or what? Because to me, it seems like they're hiding it for a purpose or a reason.
Well, I think that's what's most interesting to me too, is because I think about it like, apart from the fact that I know I'm never like I could never hope for space tourism, I feel like my life wouldn't really change that much.
Okay, let's dive deep here, because people who are actually like have had a time to listen or ponder this while we've been talking probably have put themselves in a state of a very opinionated position or a very emotional state, right? Here's the thing. If we're finding out that the Earth is flat, then we have to deal with it on a society level where it's after disclosure. A few things are going to happen. This is from my ponderance, right? The first day is going to be like, holy shit, you know, it's going to be the shock factor.
Can you believe those fuckers are right? I'm like, oh shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Day 2 and 3, there's going to be a groundswell of, okay, so you guys were lying. You guys really were lying. Blowing off these missions to Mars. I don't know if you know this, but they canceled their new moon mission return missions just recently.
They're putting more money into weather programs, actually.
Once this aha factor of the manipulation, it's gonna undermine everything. Those who clung to the ball the most, those with the PhDs and the masters, those who are behind the scenes, who are just tripping over me talking about this like this, they're gonna be the ones who react to their establishment. I don't have to do anything. I'm part of the first wave of flat Earth. I'm part of the people who were willing to show enough balls to go flat because we knew what we were seeing. We knew this argument, but we were still willing to live it. Now we're like in the 10th wave now. We got people, we got celebrities, we got kids coming straight from Pokemon into flat Earth nowadays, dude. It's 1/3 of the millennials are flat now. I don't know if you've looked at that stat, but that's another stat that's out. 2% of the population believes that we're on a flat Earth. So here we go. We're moving forward. What do we do? How do we deal with this? How do we deal with all of this? I can't answer these things. And here's the one thing I have told people in the past. However we react to this truth, once it hits critical mass, 51%, however we move forward, I throw my hands up and I say, well, humanity deserves to act the way that it's going to act now that it knows. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going to happen, dude, but I'm willing to say that humanity has the right to go ape shit, to give them amnesty and let them off the hook. I don't know what route we're going to go with this, dude. You know?
Well, comparably, what other corporation makes $50 million a day other than like McDonald's? Like, is it
the corporation we work for makes quite a bit of money every day, right. Tony. Like quite a bit of there's a lot of corporations that make a lot of money,
right?
But I mean that would destroy that for them though. Like that's gone. Like that funding would no longer come to them.
Yes,
that's another thing that would happen.
Think about it. The bones of our society revolves around this image, the ball Earth. All this would mean nothing. Planet Hollywood, when you go to
bones of our, say it again.
Yeah, like Terrence McKenna said, it's the remnants of the bones of a dead society. That's what we have with these spinning globes. If Planet Hollywood, all these little rotating things, all these things are going to be pulled down, broken down. Everything's going to change, and in fact, we're going to have a shit ton of people with money who are going to want to push. We're going to have two teams. We're going to have two things happen. People are going to want to go to the North Pole to find out what's actually there. They're the call of the compass. You feel me?
Yeah.
What is the compass calling us to? There's something there. Mm-hmm. We don't know. Do you? Where's the video of us actually going to the North Pole and someone videoing their compass and walking around in a 360-degree circle while their needle points to the center? Where's that at? Do you know?
No.
There isn't anything. So what I'm trying to say is there's a ton of mystery left in the world that people don't really realize. I'm trying to get the globe Earth people to realize that your world needs to be discovered. You need to care about where you are again. Stop with the entertainment. Now we're getting crazy.
Yeah.
Stop with your entertainment. I know you have your own personal life, but you need to realize that your North Pole and your South Expanse needs to be ventured. That's the point here.
True. It would change a lot because you would start having people and different, I mean, what are they, just private companies and stuff like that? They would actually start, funding for that, and they'd be like, hey, let's find out what's past Antarctica. Right. Let's sign for this treaty. And no, these leaders that did this, no, we're not listening to you no more.
Right.
It would do a lot. People that say it wouldn't change nothing, it would actually. If you think about it, like actually would change a lot of shit.
Oh yes, it would. People who say it wouldn't change nothing have never walked a day with authority, financial perspective, and willpower to make a difference. If that's what you're going to say, in my opinion. The people who do make a difference are going to be willing to venture into the unknown.
Well, I mean, I think, honestly, I think even being the person who said that, I would have to agree with you on that standpoint. In that, the reason I say that is because at the end of the day, at least if the only change that happened tomorrow was we knew the Earth was flat and there was an expanse to explore, that's not going to change the fact that the people who are going to explore that expanse, who are going to gut it and take control over it, are going to be the corporations who are already controlling everything. Mm-hmm. Like, just that change alone doesn't change that fact.
Right.
I think that's the one thing is that I tend to look at it from a pessimistic outlook of that it's all just greed and like that's what's
I don't think those same corporations
just with that.
Those same corporations and people though wouldn't have the power no more. Like they wouldn't be as powerful no more.
But that's the thing is just knowing that was. So let's say it happens. We find out it's a lie. Mm-hmm. That doesn't change the fact that we're still working on the dollar as a standpoint. Those people still have all of the power and all the money. The only thing it changes is that now, if you can afford to, you can go out there and try and find your own land, assuming it hasn't already been claimed by someone else. Though I just feel like
NASA wouldn't exist, and I think that is a big part of
that will be abolished most likely.
Right, yeah. It would be abolished. I think that's a big deal. And then these everything that we have, these models, and it opens up so many other doors for other things. Like it opens doors. The doors don't just stop there.
It gives you your reality back. It gives you your life back. It gives you the perception of where we are. You step into it again for the first time. I was embarrassed to say that I stepped into it at the age of 33. I've got friends who have stepped into it at the age of 45. It doesn't matter when you wake up to this.
You're a born-again earther.
You are a true earther. You're an earthling. Mm-hmm. An earthling is a planar, flat, stationary person walking on the earth. And I'm sorry, like I'm not sorry. I'm very excited and passionate to share with you that I haven't lost anything in this. I gained I care for people because I know in my opinion no one's technically below me. No one's on the bottom of the ball. We're all on the plane. We're all equal. Mm-hmm. Okay? For one. We're all barned in without our knowing, which makes me really care for my family and my friends, even though they themselves may not have caught on to this per se. I still really look at people not as fucking stardust, insignificant little specks. Mm-hmm. You're actually sitting next to someone. Mm-hmm. This is why they want to hide this shit as well. Not because of land and because of God or whatever you want to call it. They're hiding your potential from yourself. Mm-hmm. Once you realize you are a person on a plane and all of this
not a planet,
revolves.
So take away the T.
All of this revolves around you. Mm-hmm. Suddenly you got that mojo. Like you got that pep in your step. And that's kind of where the arrogance of the flat earther comes in because we don't believe it's flat. We know it's flat. Yeah. Okay? So
because your universe doesn't revolve around the sun. It revolves around you.
It revolves Polaris, the North Center, let's say. The unknown in that regard. But yeah.
In the most positive way to say that.
In the most positive way. There's nothing wrong with that. No, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, so I don't know. It's interesting because now I'll just kind of get into the last little bit, but it's funny because so many people now are starting to actually open up to it. Yeah. I just think this is so funny that you're starting to see it. Like everyone, there was a big old debacle with Kyrie Irving, and I think it's so hilarious. Look at this commercial he made. Sure. You're actually gonna tell me when you catch it, Kyle.
Music. Now this is more what I had in mind. This is my world. And this is my shit.
You see it? You see it?
He spins the flat globe.
You like that?
Yeah.
He comes to eat. He comes and eats at my friend's restaurant in Frisco, and when the Cavs were in the playoffs, and he came over, and my buddy goes, "Hey," he's sitting with LeBron and he's having his thing, so he doesn't want to bother him, but he goes, "Hey, you and me, we share the same cosmogony." He goes, "Yeah, it's a thing, dude. Flat is a thing, and if you know it, you know it." And when people, you get the nod, you get the wink. It's a comforting thing. People are accepting this throughout all demographics. Yeah, man.
Well, I think that should be the end goal, is that acceptance, because at the end of the day, whether it's a sphere, whether it's flat, the message that you're conveying is that, is a message of positivity and just trying to find out what the truth is. And really, like, at the end of the day, like, regardless of what you believe, if you're out there putting your best foot forward, not negatively impacting other people's lives, if anything, trying to positively improve them, like,
right.
It's like, how could someone fault that? Like, it's just, it's worth the conversation.
Let me level with you. If someone thinks, okay, Caleb, you need to pull your head out of your ass and think of the ball earth facts. Here's what I want to say. I will consider myself a ball earther if they would allow us to circumnavigate north-south. Mm-hmm. We need to have multiple teams go into the South Pole region and come out the other end. Not that shit where you go in and come back the same way. That doesn't prove. We need people going over the top, in and around. Everything. All the stuff we talked about. Ships, satellites, everything. Planes. That's all east and west circumnavigation all day. Mm-hmm. But that's because we know it can take place over the flat plane. I'm talking about the other's perspective. Yeah. As soon as that is done, and I feel that was a honest venture and true, and someone goes around and circumnavigates and comes back around the end, you bet your ass I'll be just as honest about that conclusion as the next man. I mean, how could I not be?
I think that's the tough part, is that regardless of which side you believe, there really are those discrepancies, and at the same time, I mean, it's not like it's asking really that much in 2018 to be able to prove it wrong.
It's not.
And I think that's one advantage to it getting bigger, is that the more people that demand those answers, the more likely a serious response comes out where it's like, look, right. Like, this is what we've got. Like,
yeah.
Because until then, like...
Right. And you know what it is? The problem that we're seeing with the argument on commercial radio or commercial television, it's what we get from the ball earth crowd isn't science. It's the gosh dang mockery, the laughs, the jokes, the bullshit. And what's funny is that the people who are listening see that the ball earth ain't got shit. They're bullshitting. I just got done saying Michelson Morley, Michelson Gale, Sanyak, Aries Failure. All of these show that there's no spin. We've got line of sight distances over Chicago lakes, the Russian lakes, which are frozen over, 400 miles long. There should be a 20-mile high curvature hump in it. There isn't one. The amount of flat facts are slapping the globe in the face so hard that they have no choice but to go into damage control and attack it with entertainment, culture, all this superficial bullshit that regular people can see through. A lot of people are still following the lead of the mockery and the laughing and the bullshit because they don't know any better.
It's just like anything, though. Like, even in the classroom, all the kids making fun of one kid, and everybody just joins in on it.
Absolutely,
like,
it's played out. And you know what? It just goes to show, when it comes down to science, you see if that's how your crowd act, if that's how your establishment represents itself, that's going to make you suspect. And it's been 3 years, 3 years of this, and trust me, we troll the globe hard every day. I wake up and I'm gonna keep it real. I talk about this all the time. I'm a moderator of the official Flat Earth and Globe discussion group on Facebook. 110,000 people right now. Okay, and I know I'm personal friends with the founder of that group. Most of the Flat Earth most of the notorious flat earthers have either drove around in my car or slept in my house. Right? I'm in the middle of this. And that's I have no. I'm telling you, it's the most beautiful, wonderful grassroots journey that I could ever imagine. It's been great.
Fuck that globe.
Oh, damn!
It's not even rotating.
Big words
that
and
time.
fighting words.
It's not. I will say I find it so enjoyable just to think that there's a whole industry dedicated to making globes.
UNESCO makes the globes. It's a toy. Yeah, and you're right.
Yeah, you're trying to take down a whole industry. Those people are all going to be out of jobs.
Hey, you know what, dude? It's cool. Like, it's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult thing. But, the flat Earth, at the end of the day, the flat Earth isn't to be debated. It's to be enjoyed.
Yeah. See, I don't know, man. I feel like I'm pro big globe. No.
Oh, I know. You know what? Dude. Look. Be pro big globe if you want to. I've accepted the fact that there's going to be collateral damage. People will die with this lie, and that's fair. And what we need to kind of do, just like any other issue, is inequality. Is try to find a way where we can still respect each other. Mm-hmm. For one, I really enjoyed my time with you tonight, dude.
Oh yeah,
you're actually very cool. I absolutely enjoyed my time with you and discussing this with you. I didn't know what to think. But that's all gone out the window. I think you've been magnificent, and I hope that you can come away with experiencing, discussing with me. You know what I'm saying?
Oh no, straight up. Like even throughout the day, I didn't know what to expect either,
Right.
and I was kind of I had to make a point to stop trying to look up debunking things. So I was like, no, I want to come in with an open mind and just have an idea about what I want to ask about, because at the end of the day, I can spend all day looking up these gotcha points, and then we just go back, and it's not productive at all.
And like I said, I'm not going to prove anything. We have to decide to cross this on our own.
Well, yeah, because at the end of the day, the reason our different beliefs is because we can't definitively prove either side.
Exactly. There's been so many arguments where your empirical evidence is stacked and my empirical evidence is stacked, and then it gets fuck you, and it's screw you fucking globe head. I've gone through everything already. Yeah. I've seen it all done before. All you gotta do, get your curvature formula, get your line of sight issues, decide for yourself. Other than that, hey man, all I'm trying to tell you is that you guys ain't going back to the fucking moon. You ain't going to no fucking Mars. And you guys are going to make excuse after excuse throughout the course of your life as to why it doesn't happen. And some people are going to go, oh, well, it just didn't happen because it didn't happen. I don't know, man. We're going to see how this plays out.
I agree we're going to see, because if you think about it, even within the last couple of years, they're talking about, by 2030, we're going to be mining asteroids and at Mars.
Exactly.
Yeah, just 30 years ago, we're going to have flying cars.
Yeah.
We can make a flying car. It's not financially feasible to sell. Who would want to drive in a flying car? Someone would hit you. There's no road rules.
Hey, justify the fact that you spend $500 billion trying to get a little nugget of juice out of a rock in space when we got 6 billion people starving to death right here.
I think
that's the other part.
That's the other area. It's
a little weird.
As romanticized as exploring space and all that is, it really is hard to justify spending the money when it's we could put that money towards solving our own problems here first.
That's one of those things. It doesn't matter about the shape of the earth. It's the humanity side where we all have a heart and we all need to come down to level there. But your shirt, Star Wars, Star Wars it's the ball to ball jumping saga of empiricism and democracy on balls throughout space. A lot of the culture shock for me was holy shit, dude, everything's fake. Nothing really materializes in my mind the same, but honestly, there's still an opportunity to have your pond wars. Mm-hmm. Ponds.
Yeah.
On the glacial expanse.
It's still basically, instead of going up and into space, we're going over.
Took you 2 seconds to figure out, dude. That's exact. That I thought that, and I said, holy shit, dude. I'm sorry, but that's
other people might
that's
not
more
have gone.
fantastical. That's what I've been saying, dude. deep space is out. Deep plane, it's coming, dude. It's gonna be the new hot shit. Like, in my opinion.
If anything, with how things are right now, that's probably how we'll find out it's flat. Because a big corporation will be like, we're gonna plane tourism now. You just hop into another plane of existence.
Right. and again, I feel like we're kind of closing. I don't know, but look, dude, this may very well go for the rest of we're young, our lives. It's going to probably be grassroots. They're going to try to contain this so well that I understand that we're the unpopular opinion. I understand that everyone is on the ball, okay? But that doesn't change the fact that I'm still going to walk true and live true. Mm-hmm. That's all. Yeah, man.
Cool, and I kind of want to just show that pond thing. To me, that's very, very interesting. It shows a different... Because it's always funny when it comes to flat Earth, the picture that we're always seeing with that.
Look at the last name of the person that photo's by.
What was it?
That's my last name.
That's hilarious.
That's mine.
I didn't see
so
that.
on this, I'm going to show you.
I just doxed myself. No.
As soon as I get it here, let's see. I want to show the picture of the one that you showed me with the ponds, but I can't find it. What did you type in to find it?
Just do infinite plane, infinite flat Earth plane.
Oh, okay, cool. Let me see.
Infinite flat Earth. There it is. It's already at the top.
Yeah, it's a commonly searched item, Tony.
This is awesome. Okay, hold on real quick. Don't put it on the screen yet, but
yeah. Go ahead.
So, like, everybody assumes that when it comes to flat Earth, that the hell?
Yeah, we talked about the beginning, right? Pizza in space.
That it's a pizza in space, right? But it's like, which is obviously, and we would have showed pictures at that time, but
that's just the CIA party line.
It's like extra pepperoni.
It's just the CIA party line. They want you guys to mock it with their mocking points, and you guys go for it. Look at that.
So supposedly this is what it's supposed to be, right here. I mean, this is what. So when you hear flat Earth, you see something ridiculous like this, and you go, "Well, they're a bunch of fucking idiots." And the water's it's just falling off.
Well, see, it goes back to what we talked about, though. See, the water turns into bubbles, in space because it's a vacuum.
Like Asgard.
Yeah.
I mean,
Midgard, dude. I gotta get on God of War tonight. We gotta shut this down.
But then the other thing, of course, is what I think this could be a possibility. Is this one?
Absolutely.
That's crazy right there. Like,
for the non-religious, Christians won't abide by this. They think this is more atheism. Mm-hmm. Christians go with the actual flat Earth cosmogony based on described in the Book of Genesis.
So when people
with
see
like the firmament and
whatnot. Pillars under it, the great deep.
But if you're a person that strongly believes in aliens and flying saucers, then maybe they could be coming from those other areas.
If you strongly believe in that, you bet your butt that's going to be your best bet. And then, but for those who are not even on the alien agenda, because in some regard, the whole alien agenda is heliocentric gullibility. They want you thinking beings can come from other terra firma, other balls. But the point is that for the person who is trying to use the process of zetetic process, meaning inquiry before conclusion, what you want to do is venture. Okay? That's the thing. We're at a point where we can realize to ourselves, let's just venture and decide.
Right.
That's all that part is. So infinite plane is like a goal. It makes you just want to go push out into the dark unknown in hopes of finding another pond. It's not guaranteed.
If anything, what I find kind of interesting is from a heliocentric point of view involving aliens, a lot of the evidence we have as far as how a heliocentric world would work would imply that aliens wouldn't... I shouldn't say they wouldn't exist, but they wouldn't be able to reach us and like travel to us because of the distances. Mm-hmm. But a model like that would have shorter distances that would make it more plausible for them to travel.
I hear what you're saying. I made a video for 8 years of heliocentrism I'm sorry, 8 years of ufology and accepting flat Earth. I made this YouTube content of it. It got like 5,000 hits and a lot of conversation. The point I tried to make in this is if you study ufology, you know that those who have been abducted, they kind of say to themselves, or they come back and say, the aliens have been saying, well, we've been following you. We've been doing this lineage abduction. Your grandfather was abducted and so on and so forth. My thing is that if there is a heliocentric model and these entities are traveling and monitoring our families throughout decades, you got to understand the Earth is expanding and moving, the universe is expanding and all this, right? Well, how are they keeping track of where our Earth is and that family is in the chaos of the ever expansion? You know, we've got to, I mean, especially if they're darting off and doing other shit before they come back. I mean, at the rate that we talk about expansion and the collisions and the things that are going on, I mean, really? It just doesn't. None of it clicked anymore.
They'd have to be exponentially more advanced than we could even like fathom for it to work.
And that's just an easy thing to throw onto the conversation to make it plausible.
Yeah.
That's the same thing they do in the helium. The stars are millions and billions of miles away. You don't have numbers. You're telling me the Earth is millions of years old. This isn't generality that's not working. It's not. Billions and billions. It's Carl Sagan is constantly talking about billions of miles away. No, not billions of miles away. We wouldn't even see them with our physiological eye, our eye size, the size of our eye. We wouldn't be able to see these pinpoints of light at those distances.
Shoot, man, I think, don't they even argue, some of them, by the time we even see the light, it's already gone. It's burnt out.
Well, I mean, that's, because of the distance. The reason they push the stars so far out is because if they were closer, it would make the argument as to the point where they're moving around us and that we're not spinning. The reason they push the stars out so far, you're forced to accept that we're spinning.
The bigger the scale, the less relatable it is to your day-to-day experience.
Yes, dude. That's it. That's why they pushed him out so far, mathematically.
Huh. Crazy. Awesome, guys. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and conclude it for now. There's so many topics that we could talk about when it comes to flat Earth. There's even more.
Like we could riff on this stuff for a while, but
one of the other ones I was looking at, where there are no, what was it? There are no trees on flat Earth.
There are no forests on flat Earth.
Forests on flat Earth. Right?
That's a heavy one.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Very heavy.
Did you watch it?
I couldn't bring myself to do it. I've parked it so far, but I'm just like, oh my god, I don't even know if I'm ready to even start to listen to that.
Yeah, megalithic trees, basically. The world we lived in was much more inhabited with large specimens of trees, sort of like Avatar.
Well, and I guess that's the tough part, is that I look at it, it's like, I don't understand why that means anything about the world being flat, because that could be just as likely on a globe, but...
And then I disagree with that. We couldn't have trees that big on a globe because we wouldn't have perfect spin, and we would be discombobulated with all the, especially when the trees were cut. If we had a perpetual motion in space and we had mega trees that were miles high, if someone cut these things down, I think it would affect the spin, the wobble, and it might discombobulate our body. It's all speculation.
That's where the fun begins.
Absolutely, and that's fair. Gotta have fun with some of this. Yeah.
But no, for real. Thank you guys both for actually coming on. Again, you can find Caleb on @NorCalWaters on Instagram
and Facebook.
And Facebook as well. You can find Kyle on at RomeMaster, ROMMASTER2 on Instagram as well. And then pretty much we're just gonna go ahead and conclude that, guys.
Okay.
And
thank you for the time.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
And thank you guys too also for taking the red pill. Take care.